up on our shores. So that will be checked as well to close that loophole. 500 million rand will be provided to support small businesses and spaza shops to help them to be compliant and then there'll be a massive stepping up of food inspections and inspections of spaza shops and the likes. So I want to know from you, did the president's address and the outlined response go far enough in your view? Do you get a sense that we now have a handle on this issue, that we'll be able to curb future events of contamination of food, given the widespread and extensive responses that the president tried to give on Friday? Were you impressed? Do you feel that we now have a handle on this situation? And then there were a whole host of other issues that were at play, and I want to throw out one or two. Did you see that Gabrielle Union, the actress, has now become the latest celebrity to quit social media platform X, that is formerly known as Twitter? Basically, she says she's come to the point of enough is enough, and basically that she doesn't believe the platform to be worthwhile in terms of engagement. The subtext to all of this, of course, is the political situation in the United States, the ownership of X by Elon Musk, who is closely associated with the recently re-elected president-elect of the United States, Donald Trump. Jamie Lee Curtis was another one who recently quit the platform. And I wonder, do you remain active on platforms such as X, and do you find it to be worthwhile in terms of the quality of engagement? Or are people like me who left X when it was still called Twitter in 2018 already, are we being wusses and not able to take the heat? Because many of you say, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And I'm wondering if you stayed up to watch the Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. Did you stay up for that bout over the weekend? A lot of people were reflecting on it and whether or not it delivered in terms of the quality of the fight. I wonder, and also the frustrations around the streaming service when the fight eventually took place, many people having stayed up quite late. And lastly, I want to check with you, did you watch the Miss Universe contest? Did you see how well Chidima Adechina went, how well she did in that contest, coming up as the first runner-up at the end of the evening, at the end of that contest? So I wonder your reflections on this, some of these events that happened over the weekend. But coming up on this show over the next 3 hours, we'll tell you about the Gauteng provincial government now launching an investigation into the cost and mismanagement of a project originally intended to support and empower township entrepreneurs by providing them with converted shipping containers, which they were meant to use as fresh vegetable stalls. Get this came at a cost of it was budgeted for 36 million rand to you and I as taxpayers. But guess what? 16 containers at 1.75 million rand each and 28 million rand paid later. We have little to show for it. Can you imagine what features must go into a shipping container to make it to be worth 1.75 million rand each? What are you putting in there to turn it into a vegetable stall? So Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, who is the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development, will talk to me at about 10 to 7 in this hour. We'll also hear from the South African Human Rights Commission about that situation playing itself in Stilfontein in the northwest involving those illegal miners. All of your regulars locked and loaded on this Monday morning, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning, Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered, as well as Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. Your calls, the number 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes, and the number for that 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Ann Musa. Ann, how was your weekend?
Good morning. It was good.
Yeah?
Well rested.
Well rested. Did you do much?
Nothing much.
Just taking it easy.
Just taking it easy.
I imagine that the diary is dominated by this situation in Stilfontein. I saw there's been a hive of activity of officials and authorities going there.
True. Not only Stilfontein, but also focusing on the whole story with regards to compliance for spaza shops. So on Friday, we know that President Cyril Ramaphosa ordered a nationwide crackdown on non-compliant spaza shops after the food poisoning incidents, and shop owners have 21 days to register with municipalities, and the High Court in Pretoria granting an interim order to allow emergency personnel access to the disused shaft in Stilfontein. So those are the stories that we are basically focusing on, So going back to the Stilfontein one, where volunteers today are expected to resume their operation to bring illegal miners to the surface at the disused mine in Stilfontein, also with some reaction from human rights lawyers on the rights of the illegal miners who are committing a crime, however, saying that their right to life and safety they have as enshrined in the country's constitution. So the spaza shop owners are seeking an extension on the registration deadline, and this is following the over 900 food poisoning incidents with compliance measures were announced to ensure the safety. So the National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, they've expressed concern over the time allowed for spaza shop owners to register with government, and shop owners are saying that the 21-day period set is too short given the extensive paperwork and preparation that's required. Many owners also believe that a longer deadline would facilitate a much smoother registration process. So in other news, we're looking at the DA is set to protest against Eskom's tariff hike at NERSA's hearing, and NERSA's public hearings on the electricity tariff increases taking place, and the National Energy Regulator of South Africa kicking off its public hearings in Cape Town today. That's before they are heading to other provinces. Eskom has applied for a 36% electricity tariff hike from April next year, and the DA expected to protest outside the venue in Cape Town. That's where the energy regulator will be holding its hearings today and tomorrow. Stories that we are looking at in courts today. The lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, is expected back on the stand when the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial resumes. Last week, Gininda told the court that in a number of witness statements, the accused Moses Sibiya and Bongani Ntanzi were named as possible suspects in the murder of Mehiwa. And then the trial of the alleged underworld gang bosses, Jerome Boyson, Andre Nodia, and several others, all are expected to resume in the High Court. That's in Cape Town, as well as in East London. The inquest that's into the Enyobeni Tavern tragedy set to continue. More patrons there are expected to testify in the inquest. That's into the deaths of the 21 young people at a tavern in June of 2022. And just lastly, government has noted and welcomed S&P's global ratings decision, that is to revise South Africa's outlook to positive from stable and affirm the long-term foreign and local currency debt ratings. So some of the stories that we will be focusing on.
All right, a packed diary as usual there. Anne, thank you for that. You'll be hearing from Ann Musa every half hour with your news updates here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So let's get your Monday started then with your weather forecast. We start with a warning. It's a yellow level 1 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in flooding of roads, settlements and low-lying areas, leading to closure of some bridges and roads due to heavy downpours. damage to property and infrastructure due to strong winds and hail, and disruption of municipal services due to excessive lightning are expected over the extreme eastern parts of the Eastern Cape as well as the western and interior parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Then there's a fire danger warning. It says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the northwestern parts of the Eastern Cape, western parts of the Free State, as well as most of the Northern Cape, except over the northern part of the David Kruiper local municipality. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 32. Johannesburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 12 to 30. Mbombela will see morning fog in places at first. Otherwise, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 18 to 32. Polokwane will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 16 to 31. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 18 to 33. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 16 to 34. Kimberley, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 20 to 36. Cape Town will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly, 16 to 24. George is cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy. The wind will be light to moderate westerly to southwesterly, 13 to 21. Gqeberha will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with a slight chance of rain in the evening. The wind will be fresh to strong southwesterly, 13 to 24. East London will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers. The wind will be moderate to fresh southwesterly, 17 to 26. Durban will be partly cloudy with a chance of light rain. The wind will be moderate southerly to southwesterly, 21 to 30. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with a chance of light rain. The wind will be moderate southerly to southwesterly with a minimum of 21 and a maximum of 36. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 35.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So let's focus on the upcoming G20 that's coming up this week. President Cyril Ramaphosa will today deliver South Africa's statements on the fight against hunger and poverty and on the reform of the institutions of global governance at the G20 summit. President Ramaphosa is leading South Africa's participation at the G20 Leaders Summit, which is taking place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Under Brazil's presidency, the summit is focused on combating hunger, poverty and inequality, among other focus areas. Let's bring into the conversation Sanusha Naidu, who is a senior research associate with the Institute for Global Dialogue. Good morning to you, Sanusha, and thank you for your time. How important is the G20 as a platform, a multilateral platform in the contemporary geopolitical situation that we face today?
Good morning, Julius, and good morning to the listeners. I think it's a very strategic and significant platform, particularly because it raises questions around how countries like the Group of 20, which are considered to be one of the strategic countries in the world in terms of dealing with multilateral reform, but also putting onto the agenda issues with regard to the global alliance. Now, Brazil has come up with some very key dynamics around two very important pillars of the G20. One is the global alliance against the fight against poverty and hunger, and the other one is the global alliance around action on climate change. Now, those are key things because if countries cannot get together and decide on how to deal with climate change, and climate change is becoming quite a disruptive dynamic because it's affecting everything from development to financing to industrialization to how it also impacts on poverty and inequality as well as hunger. I think then you're going to have a difficult dynamic. So the platform is quite strategic in that way, where it brings countries together to try and find that dynamic of consensus. However, I think it also raises the question of whether or not the 20 countries, and remember, this is a very significant summit as well, because African Union is considered to be, or has been included as the 21st member of the G20 at the summit last year, where India brought in the African Union. So what it does is that it enables countries to find that platform. But again, the challenge is, how do you define that consensus? Because you're dealing not just with developing countries, you're dealing with a mix of developing countries. And sometimes critics argue that the G20 may not only be the countries that you need to talk to.
And in terms of the balance of power, the global balance of power, it's quite interesting that the G20 seems to encompass everyone, from your traditional superpowers to emerging powers. BRICS is in a way quite strongly represented therein. To what extent is that a unique advantage of the BRICS, of the G20 formation?
Well, yes. I mean, if you think about it from that perspective, you have a number of sub-regional groupings. You mentioned BRICS, which is quite fairly important there. You've got the G7, which again is also a platform in which you can start thinking about how to engage, how to interact, how to develop that kind of discussion. Of course, you have other groupings as well, like IPSA, the India, Brazil, South Africa dynamic, and then of course you have members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So it's quite a mix of different regional groupings that can actually play a pivotal role. However, there are countries that do not exist in the G20. For example, Norway is not there. For example, the UAE is not there. And so these become interesting platforms in which to say, well, how does the G20 really become that all-inclusive dynamic? And so it's the balance of power may be one that came out because the G20 was formed in terms of what was happening in 2007, 2008 around the financial crisis in that period. But again, the challenge is that there's two tracks in the G20. There's the political track, which is the Sherpa track, and then there's the finance track, which deals with the dynamics of global economic governance. Now, the challenge right now is whether the G20 is as reflective and is it as dynamic as we think it is, because you have countries that are not necessarily sitting in the G20.
Is there any significance to the almost, the succession of global South countries taking up the presidency of the G20, or is it merely symbolic? Does it represent, in other words, that the causes and of the global South, certainly in as far as the reform of the international institutions of governance are concerned, that it will take priority, or is it just merely symbolic?
No, I think it kind of has a mix between that. Remember that this G20 is significant because it was the Global South's presidency, from Indonesia to India to Brazil, and of course South Africa will be taking up the presidency in 2025. Now that is significant because you bring that platform up, you enable the kind of dynamics of the Global South in terms of the issues that the Global South wants to put on the agenda. That is why I think if you've been listening to Minister Lamola, you listen to the various dynamics and speeches, etc. They keep talking about the Global South's presidency of the G20. It's not symbolic only for the Global South. I think it's about finding the hook that actually brings things together. And one of the things that I think South Africa is going to be critical on is how does it find that continuity with the Brazilian presidency, but also try and find that dynamic that brings in key development challenges, key issues around the financing architecture, reform of the international financial architecture as well, issues around trade, the dynamics that have actually undermined the WTO, in bringing the African agenda or the African pivot onto the presidency of South Africa's hosting of the G20. Sometimes it becomes difficult to do so.
Let me just quickly throw this in, Sanusha. Do you read anything then into the theme that South Africa has already outlined, particularly the word solidarity. And I'll tell you why I ask that. So the theme is solidarity, equality, and sustainability from when the South African presidency resumes of the G20, 1 December 2024. The word solidarity is interesting therein, is it not? Because part of what South Africa has been saying in pushing back against countries critical of its international relations stance has been to say solidarity is in our DNA. It's what we understand. So now they're taking this, in my view, and putting it on the G20 platform.
Well, solidarity has always been a key feature of not just South Africa, I think it's the global south in general. So if you look at the BRICS, they keep referring to this dynamic, maybe not in the same way as just putting out the word solidarity, but it's really part of the idea that you need to find that consensus around solidarity. But right now, I think we're in such an inflection point in the global economy, the global political architecture, that solidarity is not just about where it goes. It's about also finding the traction in dealing with the humanitarian crisis, in dealing with the fact that there is serious conflicts in the world that is actually pulling apart that solidarity.
All right, Sanusha Naidu, thank you for your time this morning. Sanusha is Senior Research Associate with the Institute for Global Dialogue. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to Lus. In the headlines, the trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyson, Andre Nodia and several others is expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today. Last week, Nodia was unable to attend court proceedings because he was admitted to hospital. Volunteers in Kuma, near Stilfontein in the northwest, will today resume their operation to bring illegal miners to the surface at a disused mine. So far, they've brought 12 illegal miners to the surface. And the eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality in KwaZulu-Natal says its data shows that most spaza shops in the area are not registered in the names of owners. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a busy back to work Monday around Pretoria this morning with a crash on the N1 South around the R21. I believe there's also a breakdown just after Rigel. So you got those two incidents blocking lanes from Rigel down to the R21. And it's pushing heavy traffic back through Atterbury and working back pretty quickly up towards the Linwood Road junction as well. M35, the Soutpan Road, which will bring you in effectively from Shoshingede into Onderstepoort. There's a really big heavy queue of traffic there. You might want to use the Mopani Highway instead. We don't get to say that very often. The N3 and 12 routes out of Germiston and Alberton, very heavy on the run up through to Galuli's interchange. That's already jam-packed as you come through Elands and Cement Factory and up towards that lane closure at Van Buren. Durban, no change on the N2 going south. It remains closed with some diversion pressures already noticeable through both Isipingo and Prospect. And the N2 north coming up from Toti through Prospect, and that's heavy. A lot of onlooking going on these days. Really quite a heavy queue northbound, while all the trouble is actually on the southbound side. And Cape Town, just a heads up, it's busy inbound this morning on the N1. A little bit of a different traffic pattern here, queuing from Kryfontein area, from Brighton Road through towards Brackenfell Boulevard. Baden-Powell open, fairly sand-free this morning. There are some patches of sand, but not troubling enough to close the road. So Baden-Powell operating quite normally along the coast. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
We found her. Someone who did, an actual person who did stay up and watched the Mike Tyson fight.
I know, it was 3 hours late. But yeah, anyway.
You did you?
Yeah.
Morning, Zai.
Morning. Good morning to us.
The Springboks firmly at the top of the world standings.
Tulas, no one tops us, man.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, no one tops us like we top the rankings.
Yeah.
Sorry for you, Ireland. It's the Springboks. We took the crown in London with that 29-20 win over England on Saturday, which solidified our number one spot in the world rankings. Springbok skipper Siya Kolisi praising the resilience of his troops in a test match, which began firmly in favour of England. The lead would change a number of times before the Springboks ground their host down in the final quarter of the clutch. Let's hear from Siya Kolisi.
Yeah, definitely. We knew from before the game that the English team was going to come out firing for us, and it's exactly what happened. You know, it took us a while to get into the game, but I'm glad on how we made sure we stayed in the game and we kept on fighting. Our discipline wasn't good. I'm not proud of it. But on the English side, congrats on them on the performance. I know it's tough, but we've been there. It takes time. It will definitely turn around.
Now, more action from the weekend. So France edging New Zealand 30-29, while Australia crushed Wales 52-20 with 14 matches played. I think rugby fans have plenty to look forward to, especially now with the Boks. They're looking ahead to Cardiff, where they'll face Wales in their final tour match, and that's this Saturday. And Wales, they sank an all-time low in terms of results. They recorded a 52-20 defeat, and that was by Australia. Italy recovering from a poor start to a 2017 win over Georgia, and that took place in Genoa yesterday, with the visitors letting slip an 11-point half-time lead. Soccer news: Algeria battled back from an early goal down to beat Liberia 5-1 in their final 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. Togo, they had a morale-boosting 3-0 win over Equatorial Guinea in Lomé. However, they were eliminated from the tournament. For Equatorial Guinea, the defeat had no bearing, as they had already secured their spot for AFCON 2025. Elsewhere, Erling Haaland scored a hat-trick as Norway thrashed Kazakhstan 5-0 to seal promotion to the top flight of the Nations League. Norway overtook Austria, who drew 1-1 with Slovenia to seal the top spot in Group B3. And tennis action: Emma Raducanu put the first point on the board for Great Britain in their pursuit of a Billie Jean Cup semi-final place at the expense of the defending champions Canada. British number 2 Raducanu, playing for only the second time in almost 2 months following a foot injury, won 6-love 7-5 against Canada's Rebecca Marino in Malaga. And finally, motorsport: the Spanish rider Jorge Martin claiming his first MotoGP World Championship title after finishing third in the season-ending Barcelona GP yesterday. Defending two-time champion Francesco Bagnaia, who started the race 19 points behind Martin, took the checkered flag for the 11th time this season, but not enough to wrestle the title from the Spaniard Martin. Martin, who will be leaving his Ducati satellite team for Aprilia next season, had made himself the favourite for the title, and this is what he had to say.
Today, I think 7 laps to go was the point when I started to realize, I was start thinking about my family. Like my career was coming through my lens. I could see my dad, my mom when I was so young, and I started to think too much. But then I refocused and I said, okay, Jorge, you need to finish the job. So it's not over till it's over. So let's try to finish the race.
That's a wrap of your Sport on the Morning Brief. Headlines top of the hour. I am Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. So, Ndauling, you are one of the people that stayed up and watched the boxing fight over the weekend?
One of the few people, and then the stream died on us.
That's what you
Imagine
get.
waking up at 3 a.m.
That's what you get. That's what you get. Let's talk serious business here. Why is the EU slapping Meta platforms with this $800 million fine? What happened there?
All right, starting off right there in Europe, Meta has found itself in hot water as the EU has moved to fine the company. This is its latest move to crack down on tech companies. The European Commission has dished out a hefty fine worth $797 million to Meta over abusive practices benefiting Facebook Marketplace. Now, the Commission says that Meta violated EU antitrust regulations by illegally tying its Facebook Marketplace service to its social network, Facebook, limiting competition in the online classified ads market. And it says Meta imposed unfair trading conditions on rival online classified ads providers. Now, this comes 2 years after the Commission initiated investigations into Facebook's business practices. In June 2021, the EU launched formal proceedings to examine potential anti-competitive conduct by Facebook, specifically focusing focusing on the integration of its social network with its classified ads service, Facebook Marketplace. In December 2022, the Commission expressed concerns that Meta was using its dominant position in social networking to unfairly advantage that unit. Now, the marketplace business was launched in 2016 and expanded into several European countries in 2017, rapidly growing its presence in the online classified ads market space. Now, in response to this, Meta says it will appeal against the decision, but will also work to find a solution to address the points raised. Now, Meta not the only company facing the EU's wrath, with other big tech giants like Apple and Alphabet, as well as Chinese e-commerce giants Temu and Shein being under fire in Europe.
So tell me about, this in a way, when Ntaoleng feels like a dirty word to even say, uranium. I mean, it's scared to even say it. Right? You feel like, ooh, okay, I'm going to be investigated by all sorts of agencies. Yes. But you're telling me about uranium prices and you're saying they are surging. What happened?
That's right. So we're seeing the impact of these geopolitical tensions playing out in the commodities markets. Uranium prices have surged after Russia imposed temporary restrictions on exporting uranium to the U.S. This move is in response to the U.S. banning Russian uranium imports that took place around May. As a result, we're seeing prices jumping. Last week, it hit about $84 a pound, with some sellers holding back to assess the situation. Now, Russia is the world's largest supplier of uranium, accounting for about 44% of global capacity, a commodity mainly used to power nuclear power plants. Now, the U.S. relies heavily on Russian nuclear fuel, importing about 35% of its supply. But the U.S. has limited uranium capabilities, making it vulnerable to supply disruptions. Despite tensions, analysts predict Russian uranium exports to the U.S. will continue with little disruption until 2027 due to existing agreements. Experts also forecast potential price hikes, possibly reaching about $100 per pound due to growing demand and limited supply. The development has boosted shares of uranium mining companies as investors anticipate, increased demand and higher prices to play out moving forward.
Sure, yeah. Of course, the context for our little joke there is that usually you hear uranium being mentioned in the context of weapons as opposed to the other uses of nuclear technology. Lastly, Ntaoleng, a recap of the markets. How did we close over the past few days?
So reflecting on how markets closed last week, U.S. stocks tanked with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ posting their biggest one-day losses in 2 weeks on concerns about slower interest rate cuts and as investors reacted to cabinet picks by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Back at home, markets ending the week mixed, with the all-share trading just above the flat line, up 0.05%. The rand, in the meantime, making slight gains as the dollar rally slowed. It's sitting at 18.14 to the greenback this morning. And then over in Asia, markets there trading mostly higher despite the broadly negative cues from Wall Street. Markets being boosted by strong gains in China and Hong Kong. But caution, of course, remains as traders continue to digest the Fed's comments around a slower cutting cycle.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntaoleng Lechela with the first of her 3 updates for you coming up over the next 3 hours. Catch her again just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Did you know the National Department of Transport has allocated 7.7 billion rand in bus subsidies for the 2024-25 financial year, which is a 4.5 increase from the last year. Through the taxi recapitalization program, over 83,700 old taxis have been scrapped, with 5.9 billion rand paid to operators. Since 2001, the Shova Galula bicycle program has distributed 122,000 bicycles to learners, with 32,000 delivered during the current period.
Doing more together. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Back-to-back Women's T20 World Cup runners-up, the Proteas face England. They both want to walk away from Buffalo Park with big smiles. What is summer without cricket? This is the first Women's T20 International Contest, where summer cricket comes alive. South Africa clashes with England on Sunday 24 November at 2 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love
Festive season is around the corner. Tsalanithi, hooray! Unlike most, Paul, I don't sweat going home because I have a Nedbank Just Invest account. So I'll be up this festive season. No borrowing, guys. Even you, Mr. Voiceman.
Must be nice to be you, Mabel. Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.5% interest. Open yours via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Visit nedbank.co.za for more info.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a few of your voice notes and one or two calls very quickly as we continue to lead the conversation together.
Morning, Thulasizwe. This is one from Togosa. About President Friday address. Ramaphosa has no child or grandkids living in the townships. So he's not that affected. That's why he's careless about our kids.
I am really not surprised. Good morning. When they give these, when they register them, for me it's just like putting a plaster on a septic wound. I was expecting something like that will happen. Do they even know that these are just owned by foreign nationals, the majority of which? And I think this is another form of economic apartheid. If it was white people owning this and not foreign nationals, everyone would be up in arms. But they don't see it. It's just another form of economic apartheid.
Yeah, so those are reflections on the measures that were announced by President Ramaphosa there regarding how to deal with the spate of food contamination incidents where food is contaminated with pesticides and the likes. Let me take a quick call from David in Witbank in Emalahleni. Good morning to you, David. You want to talk to me about illegal miners?
Yes. Morning, Mr. Simelane.
Very well. How are you? Yes.
There's a court order that has been given to.
Yes.
I know you know it. Now I've got a question. It's a simple question, and maybe you'll assist me, or I could just put it out there. Now in South Africa, is it legal to be illegal?
Is it legal to be illegal?
Yes.
Sure. That's it.
I'm just posing a question. Is it legal to be illegal?
All right. I hear you, David.
Because of poverty. I am in poverty if I'm speaking to you.
Yeah. All right.
No, Mr. Simelane, I just want to... this thing is eating me.
I've got you. I've got you.
Yes.
Allow me to...
Before you drop me, I just want to say, because of those guys are saying there's poverty and everything, they can commit that kind of illegality, and then your human rights and everything, and everyone is saying, and the media is saying, no, those guys can be given.
Gotcha.
Can I be given that document also?
All right.
Say, can I commit
David,
illegal
thank you.
activity because of I'm in poverty?
I've got you. David in Emalahleni there talking about illegal miners, asking is it legal to be illegal in South Africa? Let's move on to this story now. The Food and Allied Workers Union says health inspectors in Cape Town are neglecting townships. This comes after an unregistered meat factory in Mfuleni in Cape Town was found to be producing sausages in unsanitary conditions. According to officials, a tip-off led the city's environmental health service to a building in Mfuleni, which resulted in them uncovering the sausage production that was processed and packaged in unsanitary conditions. Let's bring into the conversation Vuga Tonko, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the Food and Allied Workers Union. Good morning to you. And how is it that you're saying that the inspectors in Cape Town, the health inspectors, are neglecting townships? What about this incident demonstrates that?
Well, good morning, and maybe let me first send condolences on behalf of Food and Allied Workers Union to families who suffered illnesses as well as death in their families as a result of this criminal act by those who unfairly trade within the country using spaza shops. Look, we believe that the FAO has not only today observed this and reported this incident, but we have long been in the struggle to advance an argument to the government to say they should make sure that there is a fight against illicit trading, and we're zooming on into what we used to call a counterfeit goods, because we had goods that were being smuggled within the country. We had goods that were expired, observed in spaza shops and in other shops as well. We had fake yet illegitimate appearing goods, as it were. And so we have called for that. But it has not been happening since that time when we called a discussion with the government. So today we're experiencing, unfortunately, the death flowing from that argument to say we need more inspectors. So if you read or if you see the situation that we are now experiencing death, you are now experiencing sickness, it is as a result of the lack of inspection by the government. And today it's unfortunate that not only in Cape Town, but it is going across the country in various provinces.
So I was about to ask you then that it's not your argument that the neglect of townships in terms of inspections is particularly pronounced in Cape Town. From what I've just heard you say, there's been a neglect in inspecting and enforcing those regulations across the country.
Of course, Gauteng has suffered the same. KZN, Limpopo, Free State, and Mpumalanga. Already, the children who died, 6 of them in Gauteng are from Soweto. So that goes to show it goes across. Even the inspection that is being followed by the government now, they are trying to go across as a project of trying to limit this particular criminal act against our children.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Vuka Chonto, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the Food and Allied Workers Union, FAO.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a pretty busy Monday coming through Gauteng. We've got a crash on the M1 South, a busy M1 South this morning down in the roadworks and the lane closure down by the R21. There's also a breakdown after Rigel, so that traffic leaving Pretoria on Route 1 is heavy queues all the way back through towards Linwood Road, and that backlog continuing to grow. Also, if you're on the M35, this is the Soutpan Road coming out of Shoshanguve into Onderstepoort. Normally you get straight through. It's a good alternative route for the issues on the Mopali Highway, but not today. There's a crash at Onderstepoort, quite a big one. There's very heavy queues on the M35, both to Pretoria and away from Pretoria. Also, SK and Pathvalley coming from Vanderhof into the city centre looking pretty heavy. That could well be traffic light troubles there. Further down the N1, Brakfontein to New Road is backed up with just a volume of traffic. Queues out of Benoni and Boksburg on the N12 running westbound. Big traffic down to Craft Road. There are 2 crashes on the N3 causing chaos this morning. Collision near Cement Factories, your first one going north, and then a crash up by Van Buren, and you've got that long-term lane closure there as well. So very heavy if you're coming out of Alberton off the N12 or up from Spruitview, Germiston on the N3. Those routes on all the way through Cement Factory, through Heldenace, past Van Buren into Galulis, really heavily backed up. N12, Protea Glen, Lenasia up to Eldorado Park is again busy today. Durban bound coming off the south coast, the N2 up in towards Prospect and 20 Hill area, very heavy. The southbound side remains closed, but it's the northbound side with the big backlogs. Queues out towards Pavilion on the N3. You're sitting on the N3 from Spaghetti Junction going into that scene. And Cape Town, a crash at the back of Tableview Parklands North on Malabongwe Drive at Dunoon, right in the middle of that junction, so that's quite slow. And the N1 into Cape Town, busy from sort of Belleville, Plattekloof Hill territory. Before you get there, though, it's quite an unusual queue coming in from Eustenburg, N1 inbound, slow to Brackenfell Boulevard. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
The Gauteng provincial government has launched an internal investigation into the cost and mismanagement of a shipping container project, which cost taxpayers over 36 million rand. The investigation comes after a Sunday Times report revealed that the Gauteng provincial government forked out millions on 16 converted shipping containers to be used as fruit and vegetable stalls. Let's bring into the conversation Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, who is the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development and the Environment. MEC, good morning and thank you for your time. So already out of this 36 million rand to be spent, 28 million rand has been spent on this project. Is it your view that the Gauteng taxpayers got bang for their buck? Did we realize any value for that 28 million rand?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to all the listeners. Indeed, this issue that you've raised about the money that has already been spent is top priority for us. That is why actually we are the ones who have flagged the issue, and we have suspended any further funding towards this project going forward. I mean, you speak about these containers. At the current pricing, they come in at an average of 1.75 million rand per container, which is just absolutely obscene. And as soon as we discovered this, my first call was to suspend the project, send correspondence to national government, and then actually request a deviation of any further funding from this project whilst we reassess it. So, I mean, in short, to answer your question, no, it is an absolute gross abuse of public funds. The pricing does not correlate with market pricing for similar structures. And I mean, this is something that is truly, endemic, unfortunately, within government and within public sector. And we are seeing it, in so many different ways. But these particular instances, paying 10 times more than what one would acquire a similar structure like this for in the market, is something that does raise serious concerns, and that we are going to take to the absolute, nth degree. We are going to engage with everybody who has been involved. As you've said, we've launched our own internal investigation. But should it need to progress further, we will take every measure possible to ensure that we recoup any funds that we believe have been misappropriated.
So tell me about the role of this company called Farmyard, and the extent to which perhaps this overpricing that you've described as obscene may have crept in through the involvement of a third-party service provider as opposed to going directly to market to get some of these shipping containers.
Sure. So the company, so firstly, it's important to note that the actual project is funded from the National Conditional Grant. And how that works is that we as provincial government would submit, projects that we have deemed to be suitable for funding and that meet our various, criteria in terms of our objectives and service delivery objectives. We would advertise for people to apply for this grant, and they would submit plans and business plans that then become the final provincial submission. Now, this particular project came to be in the previous administration. So, coming in now within the 7th administration, Government of Provincial Unity, we are finding a lot of these projects in motion. But that being said, what we've actually, so the process up until this point has been that people would apply, and this particular company is what we call an aggregator. So there are beneficiaries, as in 16 different entrepreneurs or business people who actually operate and manage these containers on a daily basis. But the applicant and the person with which we as the department are transacting with is the company called Farmyard, who is defined as an aggregator. So they are the interface between the department and the beneficiaries. And so there are some requirements, of course, so they would have been responsible for establishing the actual units, the construction thereof. Some of the operating costs are also there as project management, etc. So even if we are looking at a next tranche of funding, they have to then also submit reports progress reports about how the project is tracking.
MEC, I'm just trying to imagine what a container, a converted shipping container that costs 1.75 million rand would do. Does it play adverts that say come to the best farm stall? Does it light up at night? And the reason I say that is just give us perspective in terms of, you're saying it's far removed from what you would ordinarily pay for in the market for a converted shipping container of this nature. Just give us a sense of how removed it is from market-related rates.
Yeah, look, so, we've had various different indications, ranging anywhere from kind of 100 to 150,000 as the average market rate for a similar container that has been customized to this extent. As I said, they are actually constructed structures, so they're actually placed as permanent or semi-permanent structures. They have some backup generators and other small equipment such as fridges, point of sale machines, etc. But even that being said, when I saw this figure, it definitely raised an eyebrow for me and warranted, some questioning and warranted us to actually go and pursue an internal investigation to understand how this cost actually came to be.
All right, MEC, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, who is the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture, Rural Development and the Environment. Bringing us to 7 a.m. Time now for a news update with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, trial of alleged Cape Town underworld gang bosses and public hearings on Eskom's proposed tariff hikes. Good morning. The trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyson, Andre Nodia and several others is expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today. Last week, Nodia was unable to attend court proceedings. He had been admitted to hospital. Earlier this month, the matter was delayed following the murder of one of the accused, Mark Liffman. He was gunned down outside the Garden Route Mall in George. The court also heard that the main witness, known as Mr. X, had been found temporarily unfit to testify. The accused are facing charges including murder, conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering. Volunteers in Kuman near Stilfontein in the northwest will today resume their rescue operation to bring illegal miners to the surface at a disused mine. So far, they've brought 12 illegal miners to the surface. The operation started on Wednesday last week. The High Court in Pretoria granted an interim order allowing emergency personnel access to the disused shaft to help those who are underground and to allow the illegal miners to exit. Meanwhile, human rights lawyer Mametlo Sibe says poverty is the cause of illegal mining. He says although the illegal miners are committing a crime, their rights to life and safety are enshrined in the country's constitution.
These are people committing a crime of poverty. Many of these mine workers that are actually involved are actually forming a company that already has been registered. In actual fact, I'm told they were given one mine dump and they are in a course of regularizing and applying the thing. Obviously, in the absence of state support, particularly with equipment, access to capital and the market, most importantly, what we have is organized criminal syndicates that have now entered that vacuum. And what they do, they are terrorizing communities, engage in acts of violent murders, rapes, and all these horrific criminal activities.
The eThekwini Metro Municipality in KwaZulu-Natal says its data shows most spaza shops in the area are not registered in the names of owners. Last Friday, President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the nation, during which he announced that all food handling facilities, including spaza shops, must be registered in municipalities in which they operate within 21 days. Zandile Miyeni is eThekwini's deputy mayor.
The challenge that we have identified is that you find that a number of people in our record who are written as owners are not the real owners of these shops. Hence, we have started another new way to say we are trying to gather the data, because at the end of the day, we cannot have people who are written as the owners, yet the owner is a foreign national.
The National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, will kick off its public hearings in Cape Town today before heading to other provinces. Eskom has applied to NERSA for a 36% electricity tariff hike from April next year. Residents have expressed anger and frustration over Eskom's application. NERSA's public hearings are scheduled to end on the 4th of next month in all the 9 provinces. And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa is today expected to deliver the country's statement at the G20 Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Ramaphosa will focus on fighting hunger and poverty and reforming institutions of global governance. Brazil, which is chairing the global platform, is hosting the gathering. It will hand over the presidency of the G20 to South Africa. Kailihle Kumalo has more.
Brazil's G20 presidency is prioritizing a number of areas like fighting poverty, energy transition, and promotion of sustainable development and its economic, social, environmental, and the reform of global governance institutions. The G20 is the premier forum for global economic cooperation and global governance, representing 85% of global gross domestic product. South Africa will be officially handed over the G20 presidency during the Rio Leaders Summit, and Pretoria will continue to consolidate initiatives of its Global South predecessors.
Recapping the top story, the trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyson, Andre Nudia and several others is expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Outsurance Essential is low-cost insurance for older cars. Annelie, a 39-year-old woman, pays only 291 rand a month for her 2005 Hyundai Getz 1.5. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Major backlogs around Pretoria's N1 this morning. A breakdown at Rigel and a crashing down in amongst the lane restrictions by the R21. The net result of those two obstructions to the M1 South, very heavily backed up from the N4 Emmerich Clinic Highway. A couple of crashings on Joburg's N3, one near Cement Factory, one at Van Buren. The N3 out of Germiston and Alberton's heavy today. And there's a lot of pressure coming out of Benoni. The N12 from Benoni down towards Atlas Road queues, and then there's another big queue as you make your way from the R21 through Jet Park down towards the Craft Road exit as well. Durban side, a collision on the M13 and the Central Kloof area as you come from Hillcrest. So that crashing just by Village Road. It's quite a heavy queue this morning, M13, for those that are coming out of the Hillcrest area. N2 North Toti up through 20 Hill into Prospect and on your way to Durban stays very heavily backed up. Cape Town this morning still with that pressure on the N1 inbound from Justenburg through Brackenfell. That's a bit unusual. That's pretty heavy today. And a crash on Malabongwe Drive coming off Sandown Road at Potsdam Road out by Dunoon. That's causing heavy delays for anyone leaving that Parklands North area towards the N7 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer news. The Kaizer Chiefs chairman, Kaizer Motaung, responding to questions about the Premier League's future. And we also bring you a recap of the boxing that happened over the weekend, where Mike Tyson says his defeat by Jake Paul felt like a victory because he almost died earlier this year. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7 on this Monday. This is the second hour of the Morning Brief. Thank you for staying with us. Coming up over the next few minutes, we'll tell you about this story. We're focusing on the situation in the Northwest. The police are undertaking, as you know, an operation that they call Operation Vala Umgodi. It is all about curbing the issue of illegal mining and the activities of illegal miners. Part of their tactics has been to cut off supplies such as food and water to those underground illegal miners, because those supplies enable them to stay underground for prolonged periods of time. And the police, their calculation is that if they cut that off, those supplies off, those miners are likely to come up to the surface and then be arrested. You will know that that tactic has been the subject of a court case that has ruled that in the interim the supplies should be allowed to get to the bottom, especially assistance and medical assistance should be allowed to get to the bottom of that shaft out in Stilfontein. So the South African Human Rights Commission is now investigating whether or not the extent to which these tactics by police violate human rights of those miners, albeit those miners are accused of committing a crime, but at the same time balancing between that enforcement of the law and the rights of those people, the human rights of those people involved. So in the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with the Human Rights Commissioner, Philile Ntuli, and that's coming up in the next few minutes. We'll also focus on the initiation season that is now underway, and particularly what the Eastern Cape provincial structures are saying about it. From this initiation season going forward, we are told that no young man will be allowed to undergo traditional circumcision and initiation in the Eastern Cape if his medical screening took place in another province. Nkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso will be in conversation with me about the measures that are being put in place to ensure that the initiation season gets off without a hitch, and that there are 0 deaths is the target that they are aiming for in this initiation season. All your regulars locked and loaded and ready for you coming up in this hour, but of course also interacting with you and taking your calls on the number 086 000 2032, as well as the WhatsApp voice notes. Send those to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Energy Regulator will hold public hearings on Eskom's 6th multi-year price determination MYPD6 revenue application for the 2025-26, 2026-27 and 2027-28 as follows. 18 and 19 November, Cresta Grand, Cape Town. 20 November, ETC Conference Centre, Port Elizabeth. 21 and 22 November, Transnet National Ports Authority Enshed Passengers Terminal, Durban. 25 November, Bon Hotel Bloem Plaza for Bloemfontein and Kimberley. 27 November, Mbombela Civic Centre, Mbombela. 29 November, Jack Boats Hall, Bulugwani Central. 2 December, Protea Hotel, Klaksdorp. 3 and 4 December, Eskom Academy of Learning, Midrand. To attend or present at the hearings, register at publichearings@nersa.org.za and indicate which hearing you wish to attend. All public hearings start at 9 a.m. and visit nersa.org.za for more information. Positive identification is required at venues in Durban and Midrand.
Looking for a must-have deal this Black Friday? With Outsurance, you could get mind-blowing car insurance savings. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's go to this story now. The South African Human Rights Commission says it is investigating an allegation by a community member of Stilfontein in the northwest that the police's denial of food and water to illegal miners who remain underground in an abandoned mine shaft could cause their deaths. The commission claims the complainant accused the police of allegedly infringing on the illegal miners' right to life. In a statement issued on Friday, the SAHRC says it has written to the police to seek clarification on the current operation. For more on this, I'm joined by Phili Lentuli, who is a commissioner with the South African Human Rights Commission. Good morning to you, Commissioner, and thank you for your time. So you've had some time to interact and engage with this particular situation, including being on the ground on the 14th and the 15th of November. Let's start there. What did your fact-finding mission reveal to you about the situation playing itself out in Stilfontein?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for inviting us. Thulasizwe, indeed, we can confirm that based on a complaint we received from a member of the public, we are currently investigating allegations that the state has failed, refused, or neglected to undertake measures to rescue miners. We can also confirm, as you've indicated, that on the 14th and the 15th of November, we visited Stilfontein. We can further then confirm that we have spoken and engaged with the South African Police Service, members of the community, families, and some of those who have been underground. And based on these engagements, we can confirm that this is a highly complex matter which contains multiple truths. These truths do sometimes compete and can be in conflict with one another, and they are subject to our current investigation.
So is it your sense then that prima facie there could be violations of human rights to the extent of invoking your mandate?
Insofar as we have observed, we can confirm that the current discourse that suggests that miners are trapped is not black and white. We can confirm that miners are not being trapped or blocked from coming out in the conventional sense. The South African Police Service, working with the South African Defence Force, health, social development, and other stakeholders, are implementing this operation, which is now popularly known as the Valamkoti, across the national spectrum, including the Northwest. And as part of this operation, SAPS is deploying its members to these abandoned mine shafts as a means to halt the operations, including the inflow and the outflow of gold, food, and other substances. Our investigation, therefore, comes in to say what possible prima facie violations of human rights are showing themselves in the process of the implementation of this Valamkoti, which is the subject of the complaint that we have received.
All right, just hold on for me a second there, Commissioner. I want to bring in one of our listeners, Lutando in Cape Town, who wants to weigh in on this matter. Good morning to you, Lutando. Short and sharp for me, please.
Thulas, I don't know how to infringe the rights of the people who are armed, because those people were given the chance to come up and they are armed. How do we infringe the rights of the people who are armed underground, who refuse to come up? It's not that those people were not given a chance, Thulas. You know what I mean?
I hear you. All right, let's get the Commissioner to respond. Commissioner?
Thulasizwe, we do have certain concerns at the South African Human Rights Commission, and it's a multi-layered concerns. In the immediate, we are concerned about the sacrosanct right to life. And we are asking ourselves, are there circumstances currently at play which compromise the right to life? We are also asking questions regarding the right to food and water. Are the miners being prevented from accessing their right to food? These questions we have subjected to an investigation based on the complaint that we have received.
All right, let me take one more call, Commissioner, if you don't mind. Yeah, if you don't mind, let me just take one more call and then you can respond. Buti in the Eastern Cape, you also want to make a comment or pose a question to my guest?
Thank you to Thulas. Thulas, I wanted to ask from your guest,
Look, how do they begin to think that unlawfulness or illegality can supersede legal matters? For instance, these are the people who are doing or committing crime, and now they try to take matters to court, and the court agree with them, and there is an interdict against the police. There are people chastising the member of parliament, Gaveni, in the presidency, who exactly told something that is true. How do you begin to protect a person who is committing a crime?
All right, thank you for that, Buti. Let me also take a call from, am I able to take a call from Kwezi? Let's take a call from Kwezi now, also on the same issue. Kwezi, good morning, short and sharp for me.
Okay, good morning, Mnguni. Mnguni, I want to ask from your guest, how do you balance the right to life versus the Human Rights Commission aiding criminality? Because the purpose of the presence of police and other departments at that site is to end criminality. But now here comes the Human Rights Commission wanting to stop the law enforcement agencies from their duty of ending criminality and instead aiding the people who are breaking the law to continue with their illegal activity. How do you then balance the two? Thank you.
Commissioner, your response, and I think Kwezi's question, I guess, goes to the heart of some of the public concerns from people observing from afar your interventions in that situation. Right to life versus aiding criminality.
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe, for the opportunity. We would not want to be misquoted or to be misunderstood in our interventions. We are not in any way aiding or abating criminality. We are, in view of the Constitution, claiming and stating that everyone in South Africa has their equal share of rights as per Chapter 2 of the Constitution, whether they are criminal or not. The Constitution does not say that the right to life can be deprived to anyone based on their criminal history. Everyone in South Africa has a right to food. Everyone in South Africa has a right to water. Whether they have performed or enacted criminal activities is a different and separate matter. For us as the South African Human Rights Commission, our mandate and obligation is to protect and promote those human rights for everyone.
All right.
We are equally concerned, Thulasizwe, if I may. There are some serious policy concerns that we are concerned about, which should also be the equal concern of all South Africans. What are the legislative or policy gaps which give rise to the prevalence of the challenges we are facing with regards to the so-called illegal mining?
I hear you.
To couch this as a matter of just illegal or undocumented foreigners performing unlawful acts is to miss the nuance of this matter.
So the underlying causes and other issues. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Philile Ntuli is a commissioner with the South African Human Rights Commission.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose OUTsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for best business insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
22 minutes after 7. From this initiation season going forward, no young man will be allowed to undergo traditional circumcision and initiation in the Eastern Cape if his medical screening took place in another province. The Provincial Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department, as well as the Eastern Cape House of Traditional and Khoisan Affairs issued this warning during the launch of the 2024 traditional initiation summer season in Guapaca on Wednesday last week. Officials say each certificate will be scrutinized and anyone issuing or producing fake certificates will be prosecuted. Let's bring into the conversation Nkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, who is the Eastern Cape House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders Chairperson. Good morning to you, Nkosi Gwadiso, and thank you for your time. I imagine that you are placing emphasis on the screening, the medical screening of initiates for a particular reason. Why is this aspect of regulation of the process important?
Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers. And thank you for the opportunity. Indeed, we are emphasizing and we are putting emphasis on the screening. Reason being, we realize that our boys are facing situations of different illnesses. And so we realize that there's so much deaths that are happening in the name of initiation, and therefore we want to eliminate that, and also we wanted to prevent such. So we emphasize that anyone who's going to go for initiation must first go to our medical facilities and get screened so that any illness is determined beforehand and the necessary medication is provided. We emphasize also that when they are there in the initiation schools, they must continue using their medication and also they must drink water, because we also realize that they stop drinking water probably 2 to 3 weeks before they go to initiation. Hence, you find that our deaths are happening within 3 days after the actual circumcision.
Sorry, Nkosi Gwadiso, is that a trend you've noticed and observed, that some young men stop drinking water 2 to 3 weeks before going in for initiation? And if so, what would be the basis of that? Would it be a misconception of the culture?
Indeed, it's a misconception. We have really determined that is the case, and it's a misconception. You see, when they are there out there on their own as young boys, they tend to teach each other some teachings which are not really informed of any health basis. So that is the reason why we emphasize on screening, and also that we emphasize on campaigning that they should know that water is part of your body. In actual fact, water is the solvent of every other aspect of your body. It's 90% your body is water. So therefore, we emphasize on that.
Why are screening certificates, medical screening certificates, issued anywhere outside of the Eastern Cape not good enough for this purpose?
No, we found that there are bogus certificates that they come with, fraudulent certificates, so to say, that they come with. So we believe that all the certificates must be originated from the Eastern Cape.
All right, hold on for me a second there, Nkosi Gwadiso. Let me take a quick call from Pumelela in Gauteng. Good morning to you, Pumelela. You want to comment or raise a question with my guest?
Yes, I would like to, because, if one is in Johannesburg and they don't have enough time to go to the medical centers in the Eastern Cape, I think it is nonsense to say that people that will be coming from Gauteng or other regions will come with fraudulent certificate. That can happen. A person can have a fraudulent certificate still in the Eastern Cape. It is rubbish that people from the other provinces cannot take their own kids to medical facilities where they are based, and have, especially those don't have enough time to go back home in the Eastern Cape and take their kids in the facility.
All right, thanks Pumelela for that. Let's get a response. Nkosi Gwadiso, you heard the caller there.
Well, we have different experiences. We are on the ground. We are dealing with these things, with this thing of initiation every day. This is one of the measures that we are taking based on experience and proper analysis.
All right.
So it's unfortunate that somebody else. It's understandable that somebody who's not had the experience of these things might come in that fashion.
Let me take another call from Churchill, who is in the Eastern Cape. Good morning to you, Churchill. Short and sharp for my guest, please.
Thank you, my brother. I also want to agree with the person who raised this question, because at the end of the day, the Department of Health is one across the board. And look, I don't understand to say people can be inconvenienced. There are so many people that are all over the country who are in the Eastern, whose homes are in the Eastern Cape. And now, how would you say to them they must take their kids to the Eastern Cape for them to be checked, then go back again before they go for initiation?
Sure, gotcha.
You know, it doesn't make sense. Also, there's also one other thing that I wanted to raise. You know, to arm our government. I think there must be a legislation that is passed to say before these kids go for initiation, they must have circumcised through their doctors or through the hospitals.
All right,
and healed, because they get exposed to harsh conditions and some of them get dehydrated.
Thanks, Churchill. Let's take another call very quickly from Mukwena in Rustenburg, also on the same issue. Short and sharp for me, please. Good morning.
Good morning. I think the main problem that causes this death at this initiation school, it's not an issue of these initiates who are coming with underlying problems. The most important part it is to make sure that they clamp down on the bogus schools, those principals who are doing those initiations.
Yeah.
Some of them, they are not trained. And even if you were to check, you check in the Eastern Cape, there's always deaths which have been reported during this time. And
right.
you go to Limpopo, there's no such. You
All
go
right.
to Mpumalanga, there's no such.
Mukwena, thank you for that this morning. Nkosi Kwatiso, your final response to these two callers?
Let me take the last one. It's unfortunately that he says there are no deaths in those all those provinces. I think he's ill-informed. We have statistics of death in those provinces, and also if I come to the other one. Well, it's the same as the first answer that I gave to the first one in terms of saying it's an inconvenience. This is based on the analysis and the experience that we have faced in dealing with these certificates and the medical certificates. It's true, the department is one, but so far. It has come to a point that we say, well, let everybody who's going to take initiation in the Eastern Cape must go through the medical facilities of the Eastern Cape.
All right, Nkosi Kwatiso, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Nkosi Mpumalanga Kwatiso, who is the chairperson of the Eastern Cape House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to Thulas. In the headlines, members of Operation Dudula are expected to picket in Soweto today against the registration of foreign-owned spaza shops. This follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement that all spaza shops will be given 21 days in which to register their businesses with their respective municipalities. The trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyson, Andre Nodia and several others is expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today. And political analyst Levi Ndos says the EFF owes its supporters an explanation on why it has allegedly barred senior party member Mbuyiseni Ndlozi from attending its elective conference next month. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy backlogs around Pretoria. We start with the big one, the M1 South, a crash down by the R21 earlier this morning. N1 South is backed heavily to the N4, Emelathleti Highway, and working back through to Stormful Road. That's really bad. Behind that, the N4 from Rousseau Street coming through Watermeer through the M1 and into Hatfield. There's some really big traffic there as well. Vanderboom Pass has some traffic light problems. Vanderboom Junction all snowed up, so Lavender Road coming south in that part of Pretoria, very heavy. And then you pick up big Monday traffic on the Midrand section of the M1 from Brockfontein all the way through to a new road. Joburg's N3 from Elands Interchange, Germiston Alberton all the way through to Modderfontein Road is jam-packed. And the N12 running west from Reading Interchange out through Kamaro Street, direction Soweto, if you like, just down by the Glen Mall. Some very heavy backlogging on that N12 westbound today. Durban N3 from Sherwood out towards Spaghetti Junction, really tight. Unusual queues there. Breakdown again before Gateway. The N2 North is absolutely chock-a-block. Cape Town's M5, it's heavy today, backing up from Southfield Parkwood all the way through to the N2 Highway. N7 North has got traffic really from about Vangate Mall through to Bosmansdam Road, and big traffic still on the N1 inbound, Justenburg through Brackenfell. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So Kaizer Motaung recently had his birthday and turned 80, and there was a gift. Gift or no gift, 2 million rand or no 2 million rand. We must talk about succession, he says.
Yeah, I mean, that gift, 2 million, fair play or a golden handshake. But yes, succession planning is on the cards, and it looks like no one wanted to risk a PSL management own goal by challenging Khoza. He was, Dr. Ivan Khoza, re-elected unopposed for another 4 years. But the Kaizer Chiefs chairman, Kaizer Motaung, wants to say that the current hierarchy should now be discussing who will take over. Let's listen from the Kaizer Chiefs chairman now, Kaizer Motaung.
Yeah, obviously we have to be open to the young ones to take over, because our time is will come to an end, and there has to be a proper succession plan. That we obviously have to do together as a committee and see how best we can probably put certain things in place so that we can be able to get a proper, way forward.
On to rugby, the Springboks took the crown in London with a 29-20 win over England, solidifying their number one spot in the world rankings. Springbok captain Siya Kolisi was praising the resilience of his troops. Meanwhile, France edged New Zealand in their 30-29 match, while Australia crushed Wales 50-20 with 14 matches played. We can now look forward to the Boks as they'll face Wales in their final tour match this Saturday. Tennis, the top-ranked Yannick Sinner added another big title to his year, beating US Open runner-up Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4 for the ATP Finals trophy before his home fans and before a final verdict is reached in his doping case. Sinner won the first 2 Grand Slam titles at the Australian Open and US Open and has already clinched the year-ending number 1 ranking. Yes, hear from Sinner.
It was a very high-quality week, starting from the beginning. Trying to understand the pace of the court, which then increased a little bit, which is normal because it was a bit more consumed, and I just tried to play the best possible tennis I could in every single moment, which I've done here, and then the crowd helped me a lot. So it was for sure one of the most special weeks I've had in a tennis court.
And golf news, Rory McIlroy held off Denmark's Rasmus Højgaard to win the season-ending DP World Tour Championship and clinch his 6th Race to Dubai title. The Northern Irishman finished 2 strokes ahead of Højgaard on 15 under at the Jumeirah Golf Estates after a 3 under par 69 in his final round. McIlroy was confirmed as the Race to Dubai winner midway through his round when the nearest challenger, South Africa's Tristan Loris, who had needed to win the tournament to have any chance of clinching the overall title, finished at 1 under. Let's hear now from McIlroy, who topped the tour season's rankings and his 6th title overall, as well as matching Stavriano Ballesteros' record.
I've been through a lot this year, professionally, personally, and it feels like the fitting end to 2024. I've persevered this year a lot. had close calls, wasn't able to get it done. Thankfully I hung on a tough day and got the job done.
And finally, boxing, Mike Tyson saying his defeat by Jake Paul felt like a victory because he almost died earlier this year. What was initially thought not a huge problem, but his stomach ulcer flare-up has now revealed was more serious than it first appeared. That's a wrap of your Sport on the Morning Brief. Headlines top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Dowling. Why? Tell me about Samsung unveiling its share buyback plan. What's that about?
So Samsung has unveiled plans to repurchase $7.17 billion worth of shares over the next year, aiming to boost shareholder value. This marks the company's first share buyback initiative since 2017. The program involves acquiring over 50 million common shares and 6.91 million preferred shares, totaling about $215 billion within the next 3 months. The remaining $502 billion worth of shares will be used at the discretion of the board of directors. Now, companies buy back shares for multiple reasons. In Samsung's case, the group is looking to boost its share price and increase shareholder value. Now, analysts expect this move to positively impact Samsung's short-term performance, but say the company needs a concrete plan to sustain the share growth. The buyback announcement comes after Samsung's shares hit a 4-year low last week. The company recently apologized for disappointing quarterly profits, citing tough competition. In the consumer electronics markets, it's up against the likes of Apple, and in the chip market, we have the likes of Nvidia dominating that market. Now, Samsung stock has underperformed major players that operate in the same space it does, falling close to 30% so far this year.
So tell me about M&A activity. Novus is eyeing a takeover of Mustang.
So Novus seems to be an acquisition spree, to us, making a bid to acquire ICT company Mustang. This follows the approval of its acquisition of Media24's logistics business and community papers about a few weeks ago. Now, the local print production and manufacturing operator will offer a cash consideration of 13 Rand per Mustang share, or 7 Rand cash plus 1 Novus share, or 2 Novus shares for each Mustang share. The bid comes as Novus shows continued interest in the company, which further saw it and its partners increase its stake in the ICT firm to 35%. Now, local takeover rules dictate that any party acquiring more than 35% of a company's shares must make a mandatory offer to all shareholders. This regulation aims to protect minority shareholders from the influence of large investors. The mandatory offer ensures that minority shareholders have the opportunity to exit the company on equal terms as the controlling shareholder. Now, Novus and its affiliates own just over 35% of Mustang's issued share capital, totaling 20 million shares, and certain parties working with Novus for the purpose of the offer collectively own another 2.1 million shares, representing around 3.7% of Mustang. Now, this represents close to 40% of shareholding in Mustang, which then forces or kind of pushes Novus to then make that takeover bid.
Interesting moves there in mergers and acquisitions. Lastly, in Dowling, just another recap of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So kicking things off in Asia, markets mostly mixed, but stocks in China and Hong Kong rebounding from last week's sell-off as traders reassess an outlook for further stimulus and the country's guidance on boosting corporate valuation, with both the Hang Seng and Shanghai up 1% this morning. Over in the US, futures sitting above the flat line, slightly recovering from Friday's losses. Traders on Wall Street are eyeing earnings reports, with Nvidia out with quarterly numbers on Wednesday, so that one to watch. Then back at home, markets closing mixed last Friday. The all-share eking out gains up 0.05%. Some strength we are seeing there coming through on the currency front, with the rand making gains as the dollar rally fizzles out. The local unit trading at 18.15 to the greenback this morning.
All right, thank you for that. Dowling Lechela will be back with one more update for you just before the resumption of trade on the JSE, and that's coming up after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Assurance, they understand my business.
They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to Assurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
MasterChef's salty voiceover guide to mispronunciation. Today's word, finale. Origin, Italian. Pronunciation, finale. Meaning the last part of a series, commonly mispronounced as
final.
As if you are discussing your matric results. Example.
I can't wait to see the final results of MasterChef.
If you insist on saying final, it's okay. Watch the grand finale of final on November 23, 8:30 on S3. MasterChef, things are about to get salty.
Eskom has made it easy for you to recode your meter. Customers must recode meters by 24 November 2024. All Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters before 24 November 2024. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. Eskom has made this process easy for you. We have pre-coded all meters and they are ready for you to recode your meter yourself. To do this, go to any Eskom approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token. Our teams are on standby to help you.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. Let's start in Harare. And there seems to be a clash of diaries for one Cyril Ramaphosa, our president. The heads of state and government summit out in Harare, but he's not there. All right, we're going to re-establish a connection with Sipho Mantula there, just for him to give you a sense and a flavor of some of the stories that are playing out across the continent and its diaspora, including those you should be aware of, but are not necessarily dominating headlines. I believe we have Sipho on the line now. Sipho, there seems to be a bit of a clash of diaries. President Ramaphosa not able to attend the SADC heads of state and government summit due to other engagements, but the summit is going ahead anyway.
No, Thulas, it is Jumbo African refreshing morning. No, Thulas, I think President Ramaphosa will attend when I look at the diary of the SADC extraordinary summit. One looks at that 4 issues will be on the agenda, Thulas, is to look at the SADC mission in Congo, is to look at the current post-election violence in Mozambique, the third one being the Botswana elections, to welcome the new president as a new member of the head of state of SADC, and also Namibian upcoming elections to last on the 27th of this month. What is key is that the Troika will meet on Wednesday to last, where they will have to now deliberate on the meeting of ministers that will have met tomorrow. Tomorrow we have senior officials of the Troika, which will be chaired by Tanzania. A very important meeting to us that we are looking forward to hear what will be the issues around Mozambique, and as well as the DRC, because the mission in the DRC is coming to an end towards the end of the year.
Yeah, it's good for you to caution against assumptions that simply because the president is at the G20, he will not necessarily attend. I have no information. It is just an assumption on my part. Tell me about Gabon deciding in a referendum about a new constitution. This follows the military coup that happened there last year, right?
Absolutely, Tula. This is a very important draft constitution containing 173 articles, but important on this constitution is to reduce the 2-term limits of the president, remove opposition of the prime minister, recognize French as a Gabon working language, and saying that family members cannot succeed as president. Very important that General Brice Oligui, yesterday when he was voting for this referendum, he said that this will be a new page that they will be turning in Gabon. Others are saying it seems to be still the same monarchy of the family, but it seems that with that clause I've mentioned, Tulas, no family member, because the same general is a cousin of the Bongos. He was the head of security of the longest serving president in that country, and that's how you could see that this constitution is very important for the people of Gabon.
Yeah, let's turn our attention to that G20 summit. It's called the G20, but technically it should be called the G21 because there's a new member that is now at the table, and it's not a country.
And that member it is the African Union. It's one of the international bodies which will be inducted now in this meeting. Remember, it was last year in India, Thulas, where the AU was accepted to be the member of the G20. From the G20, when I look Thulas again, it's what I say, same members of the WhatsApp group. You know, when you look at the BRICS countries, you have Russia, you have China, you have Brazil, you have India, you have South Africa, you have Saudi Arabia, and you have also interested members who want to join the BRICS, like your Argentina, Mexico, and Italy. So you can see that this is a group of the same leaders. But yes, I mean, over the weekend, there were people who put 733 empty plates to us, saying that this group it is hungry. And as they are looking at 733 million human beings starved in 2023, this G20 meeting must deal with the issues of hunger and poverty that is facing the African continent and the global world.
And I see that the Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has been breaking bread with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and there are all sorts of pledges for stronger cooperation.
Absolutely, and this is the first meeting this is the first visit to Bola Tinubu by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he was given the title, by the way, the Great Commander of the Order of the Niger by President Bola Tinubu. They also engaged on issues of partnerships, in issues of defense, energy, technology, trade, and development. The most important issue to us is, as you know, both India and even Abuja, they are sharing what we call the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Guinea, and that's where they want to deal with the issues of piracy that is happening in that region. So they have to share information on intelligence, maritime security, and how to deal with counter-terrorism in that region. So it was an important meeting between the Jagaban and Narendra Modi.
Lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, 18 November 1993 was an important day for our constitutional democracy. Why is that?
Absolutely, Thulas. This was the endorsement of the interim constitution of 1993, 31 years ago. I will call it the genesis and the source of the real GNU, not this grand coalition, Thulas, we're talking about. For me, I'm raising this because the interim constitution came in and says that we are going to have a government of national unity under Article 88, Thulas. That's where you have allocation of seats and people not going for musical chairs fighting to be in the GNU. And that's how...
You're taking no prisoners this morning.
No, Thulas, for me, that even the right-wingers did not agree with this current constitution. Very few of them. The Freedom Alliance rejected it, but it did manage to go into 1996 final constitution. Asante sana, Thulas, as well as the constitution, watching closely the Harare Extraordinary Summit of the SADC.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa Update, a sampling of some of the stories dominating news headlines across the continent, including those that you should be aware of that are not necessarily dominating the agenda at this point.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Let's just start with an update on the N1 South coming through Pretoria. It's a big crash earlier this morning. N1 South of the R21, and of course that's in amongst all the long-term sort of lane closures. The traffic impact is pretty severe. It's all the way back now past Storumful and back towards Montana. So if you're coming out of Montana off Sefaka or coming from Storumful or trying to get in on the N4, all of those approaches will start to backlog, and then you sit really very heavily Montana right down to the R21. There is quite an impact going northbound as well with queues from John Foster up towards the R21 interchange. So very heavy. Good idea to avoid that section of the M1. Joburg Z3 from Elan's interchange all the way through to Modderfontein is heavy. The N12 leading Benoni backing up the Swanee from Tom Jones right through to about the R21, and a crash down by the Glen Mall causing a delay on the N12. That crash just after Kamaro Street. The backlog of traffic heading towards Soweto back at the R59 Reading interchange exit. Durban, the N2 running north, the usual breakdown at Gateway, so very heavy if you're airport bound. That queue starts around Queen Nundy Drive this morning. Also the N3 outbound's heavy. Traffic sitting from Sherwood all the way through towards the Pavilion Mall, and a stationary vehicle again just coming southbound into Spaghetti Junction. So the N2 from Umgena Road side quite busy. Cape Town, the N1 into town, it's been very slow this morning from Justenburg through Kraaifontein. Issues down around Brackenfell Boulevard before you get out of that N1 inbound, and then from Plattekloof Hill all the way through to City Centre stays very busy. R300 is heavy out of Mitchell's Plain towards the M7, and the main road queuing up between Muizenberg and Cork Bay, very slow along that coast there, getting down through St James. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. is the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes to 8 on this Monday. The South African Social Security Agency has raised concern over rampant identity theft in the social grant system. 2 students, you'll remember, from the University of Stellenbosch recently unearthed alleged fraud in the SRD grant system, with the Department of Social Development given 30 days to investigate before reporting to Parliament. SASSA says several people have come forward claiming their names were used for grants they were not receiving. Let's bring into the conversation Paseka Letsatsi, who is the spokesperson for SASSA, the South African Social Security Agency. Good morning to you, Paseka, and thank you for your time. So there was that flagging of the ease with which fraud could be perpetrated. It was flagged by those 2 students, as I mentioned in the intro. Since then, have you been able to get a sense of how widespread this identity theft is and how it manifests in the social grants system?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thanks for having me. Definitely we have. In actual fact, what we did, Thulasizwe, was to basically give individuals who apply for social grant the leverage to change their cell number or their account numbers. And this was done with the realization that sometimes people lose their cell numbers. Sometimes people want to change from one bank to another. However, in the process, the fraudsters basically identified a loophole and tried to steal people's monies by going into the website, claiming that they have lost their number, change their number, and steal the money which belongs to rightful individuals. It is widespread, Thulasizwe, because we do meet people who claim that I have just discovered that I get the 350 even when I did not apply. So hence we embarked on this particular process to make sure that our IT department zoom in these people who just suddenly change their numbers and their account numbers.
So this talks to a failure then on your vetting systems, no? I mean, you mentioned IT at the point at which someone is seeking to change their cell phone number or banking details, and I get that. But in terms of vetting who qualifies for a social grant, that talks to me, in my mind, to a failure in your vetting system.
Not necessarily to Thulasizwe. The reason why we have introduced the facial recognition system is to ensure that we address that particular matter. But I think I must just make mention of the fact that when we introduced the system, there was a pushback, a very serious pushback, and we have taken a decision that we need to embark on a education campaign just to take the community on
I hear
board.
you, Paseka, but I don't see how you can reject that there's a failure in vetting where those students, for example, told you that they don't receive a grant, those 2 students, and you just confirmed yourself that there are people who are saying, my name is attached to a grant I just discovered, but I don't receive a grant. Failure of vetting.
I think, Thulasizwe, if you had given me 10 seconds, you would have changed how you view the matter.
Okay,
And,
go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying when we realized that there is a process of people trying to defraud the system, we intentionally introduced the facial recognition system, in a sense that when you want to change your cell number, we request you to make sure that you do the facial recognition system so that we are certain that the person who's changing the number is Thulasizwe. However, the civil society the community at large, there was a serious pushback in that matter. So we think that we are convinced the processes that we have put in place are correct, and we think that it's important for us to engage with the community to make sure that they understand the reason why we want to empower.
There was no facial recognition for those two students at the University of Stellenbosch who told you that they are getting social grants, at least their names are associated with social grants. There was no facial recognition for them?
Not necessarily for them. At the time when the matter started, we had already picked it up, and we had already agreed that we need to do the facial recognition. But the second one, Thulasizwe, is the fact that you do not necessarily want to disadvantage the people who would say, I don't have a smart card ID, would want to have the processes or the gadgets in the office for them to come and make sure that they change the processes. So it's a tedious process. It's a catch-22 situation to us. When you want to do it, people push back. If you don't do it, you will be called here and explain why people have stolen money.
So these and other matters were debated at a session in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature last week. And among the calls was that your CEO, Busisiwe Memela, should resign over these issues of fraud as well as other systemic problems. Why should she keep her job?
Let's not go there, Thulasizwe. We went to Parliament. I'm going to explain to Thulasizwe. I know we are pressed of time, but I'm just pleading with you to give me
go ahead.
Seconds. Yeah, we went to Parliament, Thulasizwe, to explain the processes. The minister was given 30 days to come and explain, make a research, which the process is unfolding, and I think we must not put the cart before the horse. We need to make sure that the presentation is made into Parliament in terms of what has been uncovered.
Was your CEO's contract recently renewed, despite the fact that she is due to go on retirement?
Thulasizwe, I think that matter, it's a matter of public knowledge that the contract was extended, but I think it is a matter which it is between the employer and the employee.
How so? It's in the public interest. Her performance of her duties is a public function, and she's under scrutiny given the failures that you and I have just been discussing.
No, all I'm saying, Thulasizwe, is that it is the Department of Social Development which enter into a contract between the CEO of SASSA and the department. So it will then be prudent for the Department of Social Development to make a statement in that behalf.
I get you. But are you at least able to confirm that the extension that has happened was despite her being past retirement age?
No, definitely the extension was effected last year, this year early.
All right, got you. That is Paseka Letsatsi, who is the spokesperson for the South African Social Security Agency, bringing us to 8 a.m. Time now for a news update with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Operation Dudula to picket over foreign-owned spaza shops, and Biden authorizes Ukraine to use long-range U.S. weapons in Russia. Good morning. Members of Operation Dudula are expected to picket in Soweto today against the registration of foreign-owned spaza shops. This follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement that all spaza shops will be given 21 days in which to register their businesses with their respective municipalities. Ramaphosa's announcement comes amid growing concerns over food safety and the sale of expired, contaminated and counterfeit goods at some spaza shops. This follows a spate of food poisoning incidents which have resulted in the deaths of 22 children so far. Operation Dudula's President Zandile Dabula says they'll picket outside the Urban Ubuntu Council.
We are very disappointed because when we thought that our own president will be declaring a state of emergency when it comes to immigration, then he decides to give people who have broken the laws already a chance to go and correct their wrongs. So Why are they not shutting them down? I mean, he was so quick to say that all the informal traders that are trading at schools, they need to move and no longer trade there. But why is he not doing the same thing with these foreign-owned spaza shops in and around our townships?
Meanwhile, leaders of social movements have accused government of flouting the law regarding business permits for foreign nationals. According to the Immigration Act, foreigners can apply for a business permit. David Ratladi, chairperson of Inwoners Bahagi Civic Movement, says they've come up with a way forward regarding unregistered spaza shops and trading restrictions on local vendors.
We are going to write a petition to our the district department of the SAPS and the Metropolis, so that we should caution them about the influx and the home affairs, so that they should know and regulate these spaza shops and undocumented foreign nationals.
The trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyce and Andre Nudia and several others is expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today. Last week, Nudia was unable to attend court proceedings. He had been admitted to hospital. Earlier this month, the matter was delayed following the murder of one of the accused, Mark Liffman. He was gunned down outside the Garden Route Mall in George. The court also heard that the main witness, known as Mr. X, had been found temporarily unfit to testify. The accused are facing charges including murder, conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering. Political analyst Levi Ndo says the EFF owes its supporters an explanation on why it has allegedly barred senior party member Mbuyiseni Ndlozi from attending its elective conference next month. There is speculation that the exodus of senior leaders from the Red Berets could lead to the party's further electoral decline. The EFF dipped to 9.52% in the May general elections, becoming the fourth largest party after the arrival of the Thulasizwe party. Reports suggest Ndlozi has not been given an explanation for his ban from the party's activities. The move comes amid reported rising tensions in the EFF. Ndo says the EFF must account to its supporters.
If you prevent a person like Dr. Ndlozi from attending the National People's Assembly, you should be having very, very good and convincing reasons why you have done so. Because people in and outside the EFF could interpret that differently. And if such has a potential to create unnecessary dissatisfaction and indeed divisions within the party, you should therefore be able to have a very good strategy to be able to explain that to the constituency of the party.
And finally, U.S. officials confirm that President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use American long-range missiles to strike targets deep inside Russia. The decision marks the significant reversal in U.S. policy, although Biden has not made a formal announcement. Russian politicians have expressed anger at the decision, the BBC's Steve Rosenberg reports.
The only reaction we've had so far is from senior Russian politicians. So the head of a pro-Kremlin party said he believed this is a serious escalation that would have serious consequences. A senior Russian senator said it was a step towards a world war. But keep in mind, what really counts in Russia is what President Putin says. And he hasn't said anything at all so far. Joe Biden has taken this controversial decision, but in 2 months he'll be out and Donald Trump will be in. Someone who has been publicly skeptical about US military aid to Ukraine. I wonder whether that will play into Putin's calculations.
Recapping the top story, members of Operation Dudula are expected to picket in Soweto today against the registration of foreign-owned spaza shops. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. 39-year-old Zagiti loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2011 VW Polo 1.6 Trendline, she only pays 525 rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story of Gauteng's the enormous backlog on the M1 South. It's a crash in amongst the lane closures down by the R21. The traffic's all the way back through to Stormful Road and marching back towards Montana. It really is very heavy. The M1 North is under a bit of pressure for those going to Pretoria from John Foster Drive in Centurion up towards that R21 crash sheet. The N3, plenty of traffic still coming up from Elan's Interchange, N12 out of Alberton onto the N3 all the way through to Modderfontein. There is a crash near Van Buren complicating matters. The N12, if you're heading from Alberton through to Soweto, that's heavy. A crash just after Kamara Street. Backlogs heavily right back through the Reading interchange area. And the R21 North with the roadworks underway just by the NGen one-stop services. Slowing you up if you're en route from the airport towards Pretoria. Durban breakdowns. N2 going north at Gateway. That's heavy from Queen Nundee. N2 south coming into Spaghetti Junction. That's heavy from Umgedi roadside. And a breakdown near Pavilion Mall. That's heavy today. If you're leaving Durban, big queues from Sherwood out towards the mall area on your way through to Pinetown, direction Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town still plenty of traffic. N1 inbound, Eustonburg to Brackenfell, then Plattekloof Hill right through to the city centre, and Marine Drive still very busy. Queues from Sunningdale right through to the Paddocks Mall in the Milnerton area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It's rugby. The Springboks to name the final squad for the Wales clash with a big reveal tomorrow. And in MotoGP, the Spanish rider Jorge Martin claiming his first MotoGP World Championship title. All the details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 8 on this Monday. Good morning, South Africa. It's good to be with you. This is the Morning Brief, and I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. There's so much conversation that has already gone in the last 2 hours or so of the show. And I tell you what, usually I give you a recap of what we've covered, etc. But at this point, I've got to be honest. I've got to admit I'm itching to hear from you. Right? To hear from you on some of the topics that we raised at the start of the show around, the issues to do with those miners that are trapped, that are underground in Stilfontein, and the interventions of bodies such as the South African Human Rights Commission, who are seeking to balance between law enforcement and a firm stance by police and the protection of rights as required by the Constitution. You may want to weigh in on that if you are listening. The other shocking matter that we covered this morning, the 1.75 million rand per shipping container granted, but 1.75 million rand that the Department of Agriculture in Gauteng spent in an effort to boost the efforts of township entrepreneurs and enable them to set up, vegetable stalls to sell. But, it was just overpriced. I mean, I spoke to the MEC earlier on. She was saying that it was obscenely overpriced. 1.75 million rand per container, shipping container that was converted to be a vegetable selling stall. So those are some of the issues that have been at play in the last 2 hours. But as I say, I'm keen to hear from you about what's on your mind. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. The number for that is 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, also known as PRASA, is making strides in restoring passenger rail services affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority rail lines are now fully operational, with 266 stations up and running nationwide. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date.
This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Everybody needs an island adventure. Think about it. White sandy beaches, tall coconut trees, the sun shining down on you. Moments that will have you singing, "When the water's so blue." Well, this is no typical island adventure. 18 contestants will spend 39 days on the island of the idols, strategizing, backstabbing, forging and breaking alliances. Here, their meals aren't guaranteed. They eat what they catch. One mistake or betrayal might get them kicked off the island. It's a battle for $1 million on Survivor 39. Channel your best reality with Survivor Season 39. Island of the Idols, Thursdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at insurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take your calls straight away. Short and sharp for me, please, so we can take as many as possible. Dintwe in Tabanchu, good morning to you. You want to talk about the converted containers?
Yes, Thulas. This is the problem that we don't see any progress in agriculture in our country because of the middlemen. Middlemen were used for those things so that the price are escalating so high. You know, what I can say as a farmer in the Free State, we once have an MEC, Beni Malakwana. He removed the middleman so that as a farmer, you will procure with the officials and you want and get things that you want with a reasonable price.
Yeah.
But taking these middlemen, they are taking a big chunk of the money that must support the people.
The markup
so this
is just
the
too
problem
much.
that we are having.
Yeah.
Let them get rid of the middlemen and develop our people in South Africa.
Thank you for that. Dintwe in Tabanchu there talking about the converted shipping containers in Gauteng. Let me speak to Kirk, who is in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Kirk. You want to talk to me about the trapped miners?
Good morning. Yes, Thulasizwe, the trapped miners. The last week there was numerous calls to several shows on this issue, and what is clear to me is the frustration of South Africans with the lack of government intervention in foreign national control at border posts, and that leads to the tuck shop issue. It leads to the foreign nationals changing the labels of expiry dates. It leads to the illegal mining. It leads to many factors, cash in transit, robberies, all executed for illegal foreign nationals. And the frustration of South Africans is that why can't government get the situation under control? And that is why the miners, now we are turning against the miners, because the miners are now the latest iteration of the same problem that we've had for 20 years.
All right. Kirk, thank you for that. That's Kirk in Cape Town there. Let me take a call on spaza shops from George, who is in the Eastern Cape. Good morning to you, George.
Morning. I just want to suggest a simple solution.
So instead of that money, I think 500 million.
500 million rand, yes.
Yeah, yes. So what should happen is that the big shops like Pick and Pay and Checkers must open small franchise and give it to the people in the townships, so that the supply comes from them. But that now to bring down the pricing, then that 500 million can be used to subsidize them so that the prices
I
are
see.
lower. Yes.
So the name carried by the local spaza shop and local shops should be of these big brands that you mentioned, but then the costs of the goods be subsidized at the point at which they are sold to the consumer.
Yes. Then
Okay.
it will solve the problem of where the food, the supplies are coming
Gotcha.
from different angles.
Interesting suggestion. Thank you for that. That's George in the Eastern Cape. Let me take a call from Mukwena, who is in Rustenburg. Good morning to you, Mukwena. Also on the issue of illegal mining.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
The grey shade looks good on you.
On the YouTube stream.
Yes. Quickly on the issue of those guys who are in Stilfontein, one aspect that I want just to outline is the fact that I don't know whether there is a vacuum in terms of leadership in the country of South Africa. We had a person who once instructed police officers to use live ammunition to disperse people who were in Marikana. And now we have a minister in the office of the president who comes out and says that those people, we are going to smoke them. And she's even giggling to show that she's enjoying that. And they are saying that we will make sure that we starve those people. We will not give them water, will not give them medication. What kind of a country are we? Are we doing that because these people are coming from foreign countries? What kind of a country are we?
Sure.
I mean, we can't be doing that. A minister cannot come out and speak so irresponsible. Come out and say that we need to smoke all those people. Even Gayton Mackenzie came on. Kumbuzo said that. Even Gayton said that. Yes, I concur with the statement. And the president, he's not saying anything. He has kept quiet.
So are you saying, Mukwena, that the words of Kumbuzo Chabeni could age as badly as the words of the president before he was president, when he called for quote unquote concomitant action in Marikana?
Most definitely, because I mean, Kumbuzo, she's serving in the in the office of the president, and he did not even condemn the statement.
All right.
I saw them; they were having a rally on the ANC. Then Mbalula came out and saying that I'm in charge at Lituli House. And the president came out and said that you are not in charge in Lituli House.
Right.
The people are in charge in Lituli House.
Okay.
Meaning that when something is wrong is being said, the president will come out and say he out. I'm so ashamed to call myself a South African.
Let's leave it there. I have a feeling.
Because people are coming from a foreign country, therefore we need them to treat them in this manner.
I have a feeling.
I'm so ashamed about the president to make even.
All right, Mukwena there in Rustenburg. I have a feeling that my next caller will disagree fundamentally with Mukwena. Vuyiswa, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe.
Yes.
Thanks for taking my call. Yes, I will disagree.
Uh-huh.
Our country has a bad reputation worldwide of crime. And the Human Rights Commission cannot come here and issue such reckless statement. I mean to say there is a war against South Africans from even institutions like the Human Rights Commission. I mean, crime is not something that we can get proud of. Why are we attracting criminals in this country? Because there must be law. There must be rules in place.
I don't think the Human Rights Commission disagrees with you, Vuyiswa, that there must be law enforcement in the country.
No, I was listening to that woman. Whatever she was saying, Commissioner Pindile, technology, even here, she was struggling to actually make a point. We need to deal harshly with crime, we like it or not. Otherwise, our future generations will find a collapsed country with no law. So we need to fight crime like nobody's business. As I was saying last time, there's gold all over in this continent. And people, why South Africa? Something is not right here, and we need to actually address it. We cannot sit like this. Right now we are prisoners. You are afraid to walk in the street. You are afraid to. There's no peace in our hearts. People are dying of depression.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So
Thank you for
we
that.
cannot.
All right. Got you. No. Vuyiswa, unfortunately, please, one topic at a time. We do have quite a lot to get through. Thank you there. That's Vuyiswa weighing in on the issues that we've covered around the South African Human Rights Commission and the intervention that they are making in that situation in Stilfontein in the Northwest.
Okay, let's get this recipe right. Switch to S3 at 7 p.m. Add 1 scoop of mushendiki. Check. Mix in team green pepper and team red tomato, featuring 2 chefs and 2 contestants. Check. Blend in a limited budget per team and a mystery ingredient to add a bit of spice. Check. Set the timer for 20 minutes and voila, there you have it. A fresh episode of Ready Steady Cook South Africa on S3 every weeknight at 7 p.m. Channel your inner Salt Babe with Ready Steady Cook SA, Mondays to Friday at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think Outsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to Outsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
I've got to tell you, I've been excited to tell you this story for our science feature this morning. The University of Pretoria, a University of Pretoria doctoral student, Christian Deshot, has discovered 2 new beetle species while on a stroll to fetch his kids from school. Deshot has been involved in the discovery and description of more than 50 new dung beetle species over the years in Southern Africa. There are about 500 species of dung beetle in South Africa and more than 700 in all of Southern African countries, including South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Southern Mozambique and Zimbabwe. So let's take the conversation forward then, and I'm joined by Christian Deshot, who is a doctoral student at the Department of Zoology and Entomology at the University of Pretoria. Good morning, and thank you for your time. So, Nje, on a random stroll, fetching your kids, and you bump into these 2 dung beetle species. Tell me about what led to this discovery and how you identified that these are not part of the species that are already known.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, it was quite a surprise when I was walking to go and get my kids from school when I found these beetles. Actually, what happened was it's just 1 beetle that I found on the stroll to school, and it was a second beetle that I found amongst other beetles that was unidentified. So anyway, I've been working on dung beetles at the University of Pretoria for more than 20 years. And after a while, you start learning these things. So, when at this stage, I just look at a beetle and I know if it is something interesting or not.
So what about these 2 species made them stand out such that you could immediately tell that this is not part of what we've known?
Yes, well, the first one, the one which I picked up on the stroll while picking up my kids, that was actually a very small beetle. I was not expecting to find anything that day. It was after rain, and it was quite miserable.
Is that the one known day. Is that the one known as Heterontophagus spinosa? Is that the one?
Heterontophagus spinosa. Yes, that's it. I picked it up. I kept it between my fingers and walked all the way back home with it. And finally, I took a look at it under the microscope, and only then did I realize, yes, this is something very interesting. So what triggered me to pick this thing up is that normally we all know dung beetles eat dung. But where I picked this thing up, there was no dung at all, no cattle, nothing was close by. And it was found walking between ants. So what would this thing be doing among ants? So that's why I picked it up. So when there are dung beetles that we know of that specialize in living in ant nests. They are true dung beetles, but they don't eat dung. What they eat, we don't know. They just live in the ant nests. So I was actually hoping in the back of my mind that this is one of those things. And yes, when I looked under the microscope, it had all the characters of these ant nest specialist dung beetles. So it was quite amazing.
So you're saying you've been studying dung beetles for a good 20 years at the University of Pretoria. Someone sitting and listening to our conversation will be asking why. There must be a reason why they are so important to you and perhaps to our ecosystem.
Yes, well, dung beetles is a relatively well-known group of insects. They are soil engineers. This means that while they are removing and burying the dung and thus eliminating the breeding grounds for flies and other pests, they are also enriching the soils. They are loosening it up so that water can penetrate it better. They are spreading nutrients in the dung, and also they are fixing nutrients so that it doesn't end up in water systems. So they are thus essential to various food and nutrient cycles, and without these cycles and without dung beetles, life on Earth would be impossible as we know it.
Wow. That is fascinating. So you mentioned there an array of functions that includes playing a role in elimination of pests as well as fixing the nutrient cycles
yes.
in the soil.
Yes. We all know there's this well-known story about the Australians and their corks, the hats with the corks hanging from it. And this is a direct result of them importing lots and lots of cattle. The cattle dumped a lot of dung there. Their natural occurring dung beetles was not equipped to handle all this dung, as they only they can only manage small marsupial dung pellets. So these masses of dung just lay there, and it was the perfect breeding ground for bush flies. And that's why they all decided to, well, they were forced to wear these hats with the corks to just wave off the flies.
Sure.
So that's a typical why the beetles are necessary to remove the dung. Otherwise, flies would just breed in it and just become pests.
I never would have imagined. Thank you for your time and sharing your insights with us this morning here on the show. That's Christian Dershot, who is a University of Pretoria doctoral student, having discovered 2 new species of dung beetle just on a random stroll in fetching kids from school, because he is attentive to these things and he knows what to look out for making that discovery. At 8:30, let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, some spaza shop owners are calling for more time to register their businesses, saying the 21-day deadline is insufficient. It follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement giving owners of food handling outlets, including spaza shops, the deadline to register their businesses with their respective municipalities. The first ever gender-based violence study is expected to be released in Pretoria this morning, and political analyst Levi Ndo says the EFF owes its supporters an explanation on why it has allegedly barred senior party member Mbuyiseni Ndlozi from attending its elective conference next month. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
N1 south of Pretoria stays very busy, coming through from sort of N4 Linwood Road territory all the way down to the R21. It's an earlier crash in amongst the road construction that's going on there. It has been for a long time. It's very slow leaving Pretoria. The N12, bottom of Joburg, southern bypass, a crash just past Camaro Street on your way to Soweto. The backlog there right through to Reading Interchange. Mike 1 and M2 route still heavy through Crown for a turn up towards Braamfontein. N1 north and south very busy to try and come off at William Mandela. The four-ways exit as faulty traffic lights continue to plague that junction. It's been months, hasn't it? A really big intersection, that one. Durban breakdowns causing chaos. N3 outbound, broken down vehicle at Pavilion Mall, slow from Sherwood. Stationary truck after Spaghetti Junction in the roadwork. So the N2 north is heavy from the M7. And then again, you hit another queue up the N2 with a breakdown at Gateway, also in the roadworks. And that's a queue back beyond Queen Nundy Drive. Cape Town, quite a big crash scene on the main road just south of Glencan Expressway. So if you're moving between Fishhook and Simonstown in that Glencan area, there's some quite heavy traffic. You might find one of those directions being closed down with some diversion pressures as well. N1 inbound still very heavy from Plattekloof Road through to the city centre. The M5's heavy this morning from Rondebosch up towards Kuiberg Interchange, and Bosmansdam out of Boertesak and Edgemead. Still very slow jam-pack getting across the N7 down through Summer Greens towards Montague Drive Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So Rassie has named the final squad and Wales is up next.
Yeah, I mean, talk about naming the squad early. I think it's just giving them more time to stress.
Advance warning.
Advance warning.
It doesn't matter who you then field. We're just letting you know this is who we are bringing.
I know. I mean, it's the who's who in the squad. And I think this is the final team for the season. The last braai of the year for the Boks, and I think they're firing up a bit of a feast for us when it comes to Wales. We're looking out for the Springbok squad announcement tomorrow, 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, with South Africa firmly holding the number one spot in the world rankings, the team is expected to feature a mix of regulars and a few promising youngsters. All eyes on the Bulls' eighth man, Cameron Hanekom, who could make his debut in green and gold. Meanwhile, Makazole Mapimpi is just one try away from overtaking Jacques Fourie in the Springboks' third highest all-time try scorer. So the Cardiff clash against Wales is on Saturday, is set up to wrap up a stellar season for the Boks. On to soccer, where the Kaizer Chiefs chairman, Kaizer Motaung, has responded to questions about the Premier Soccer League's future, saying the current hierarchy should now be discussing who will take over. Motaung, who turned 80 this year, was gifted 2 million rand by his fellow executive committee member and league chairman, Dr. Ivan Khoza. On the monetary gift from Khoza, Motaung said he was moved and reminisced about how the two of them got the NSL off the ground.
Our journey with the chairman has been very exciting, and it's been very eye-opening because we went through quite a lot. It needs time for us to actually put something together. But obviously we can write our own history ourselves and not wait for somebody to come and write it for us. So we need to write our history in terms of where we come from, because this has been our life through and through.
And tennis action, the top-ranked Yannick Sinner added another big title to his year, beating the US Open runner-up Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4 for the ATP Finals trophy in front of his home fans. Meanwhile, Emma Raducanu and Katie Boulter led Great Britain to success in the Billie Jean King Cup, claiming a place of the semi-finals, and that was at the expense of the defending champions Canada. Earlier, the British number 2 Raducanu opened the match with a 6-love, 7-5 win against Canada's Rebecca Marino. Boulter finishing the job, beating Canada's Leila Fernandez, and that was 6-2, 6-4. Britain will now face Slovakia in the semi-finals, Slovakia beating Australia. On to golf, a blitz of 5 straight birdies on the back 9 holes saw Nelly Korda cruise up the leaderboard to win her third Ladies PGA Annika title. Korda finished the tournament at 14 under par, 3 shots ahead of her closest rivals. Charlie Hull held a slender lead ahead of the final round, but had to settle for a share of second place at 11 under par alongside Wei Wei Zhang and Jin Hee Im. Finally, motorsport, the Spanish rider Jorge Martin claiming his first MotoGP World Championship title after finishing third in the season-ending Barcelona GP yesterday. Defending two-time champion Francesco Bagnaia, who started the race 19 points behind Martin, took the checkered flag for the 11th time this season, but not enough to wrestle the title from the Spaniard. Martin, who will be leaving his Ducati satellite team, Pramac, for Aprilia next season, had made himself the favourite for the title with a remarkably consistent season. That's how we wrap up your sport on the Monday Morning Brief. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
So, Ndauling, there was a time when being downgraded to sub-investment grade, what is commonly known as junk status, was the stuff of nightmares in South Africa, right? We would fret about it all the time. Now, I mean, it eventually happened, you know, the executioners, it came down on us and we became junk and we stayed junk. Now we're at a point where we welcome even a outlook revision by the likes of S&P, which has now happened.
Imagine just an outlook revision, not even an upgrade, just the outlook.
Yeah, to say we look at you better than we did a few months ago. That's it, we are happy.
Right, some positive momentum coming through on that front as S&P Global revised the country's outlook to positive from stable. Although the credit rating itself remains at BB minus or junk status, this outlook improvement suggests a potential upgrade in the near future. So the ratings agency cited the increased political stability following the May 2024 elections, and they expect the momentum reform to boost private investment and GDP growth. This is a significant development considering South Africa lost its investment grade status in 2017. Looking ahead, analysts predict that rating upgrades will start rolling in next year, driven by the country's projected economic growth. This could spark institutional investors to buy government bonds, ultimately supporting the rand. Looking at other credit ratings agencies, Fitch Ratings has maintained South Africa's credit rating at BB minus with a stable outlook. However, the agency's statement following the midterm budget suggests a more optimistic view, fueling expectations of a potential outlook upgrade. Moody's, in the meantime, rates the country slightly higher at BA2, 2 notches below investment grade.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take the positive outlook.
Any good news, any good news.
Tell me about this Saudi-based company and their dealings with Barloworld. They're looking at a takeover, and that could result in the listing status of Barloworld changing.
That's right. So more M&A activity taking place there in the country, particularly on JSE-listed companies. Now, the distributor of heavy equipment, Caterpillar Equipment in Africa, Barloworld, has entered into negotiations with a consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Zahid Group, which also distributes equipment in the Middle East, and Ensha regarding a potential acquisition. Now, this is valued at about 16.5 billion rands. Barloworld confirmed discussions may result in an offer to acquire all issued ordinary shares, so essentially a takeover. Now, the consortium NewCo comprises Ensha, owned by the current CEO of Barloworld, Dominic Siwela, and his family, with 51% voting rights, and Falcon Holding, that's owned by Zahid Group, which owns an 18.9% stake currently in Barloworld. So negotiations ongoing with no firm offer made as yet. This move aligns with, somewhat of an increasing Middle Eastern investment interest in Africa. Zahid Group, as mentioned already, a significant shareholder with a stake of near 19%, and has been investing in Barloworld since 2020. Other Middle Eastern companies such as ACWA Power and DP World are expanding their presence on the continent as well. So this potential buyout also follows Barloworld's streamlining efforts. It has successfully unbundled and listed its car rental business Zeda in December 2022, and its disposal of its logistics business earlier this year around March.
So Monday sets the tone, does it not? Tell me about the kind of trading week we can expect, trading day as well as trading week here at home and elsewhere in the world. Ndauling?
So local markets in for a mixed start this week following its global peers. Here at home, we have earnings reports galore that will be moving market numbers out from Telkom, Astral, PPC, WeBuy Cars. So traders will be waking up to that. We also have the rates decision later this week. So there's a bit of a big week on the local front. And then over in the currency scene, the rand making gains following 5 straight sessions of losses, trading at 18.14 to the dollar this morning. In Wall Street, futures are just above the flat line. We saw stocks on that front selling off at the end of last week as investors engaged in some profit taking. Now we are seeing some sort of caution prevailing ahead of Nvidia's results that are out this week on Wednesday. And then over in Asia, stocks on track to end mixed. Markets struggling to find direction ahead of big economic data from that region. Investors on that front are eyeing Japanese inflation figures due later this week.
All right, Ndauleng, thank you for that. Have a great day. That's Ndauleng Lechela. She's been watching all things economics, business, as well as the markets for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
So lots of reaction to the conversations we've been having throughout the morning, and among them, the issues around the South African Human Rights Commission and their intervention in that situation in Stilfontein, in the investigation they are now conducting into whether or not the denial of food and water by police over the last while amounts to violation of the rights of the illegal miners. Lots of you weighing in on that. Let's take a listen to some of your voice notes.
Good morning, Thulas. This is Mato speaking, and good morning to SAFM listeners. This commission called Human Rights Commissions in South Africa, they are not doing justice to South African in most cases. Now, people were terrorizing that particular community. They said police are not doing anything, the government doesn't do anything. Now the action has been taken, and the people are heavily armed. Poor policemen and women, they are brothers and sisters, they got families. This Human Rights Commission, if they want to go down to the ground, they can just go there because the people, they got the rights to life. They must go and rescue those people, because it's cheaper to talk on national radio and say people, they got violation of this, violation of that. They must go down themselves with their organization to take them out.
Yeah, all right. That's an interesting one. So you're talking about the cry has been that nothing is being done and, authorities are not doing anything. I suppose what the Human Rights Commission would say is that doing something about the situation would entail you arresting and prosecuting them as opposed to depriving them of essentials that they need for them to stay alive in violation of their right to life. That's at least what they are investigating. So does doing something about the issue amount to depriving them of food and water if there's a way to get it to them? Or does doing something about the issue mean, you wear them down until they come out, or however long it takes, and then when they do, you arrest them for illegal mining? Let me listen to this other one now.
Thulasizwe, what's preventing these miners from coming out on their own? Am I missing something here?
That's an interesting one. I saw that the Human Rights Commission statement says that the deprivation, the cutting off of the, let's call it that, the cutting off of the food and water supplies has been ongoing for about 3 months. So that's at least on the version of the Human Rights Commission statement, quoting the complainant, that the complainant says this has been ongoing for 3 months. You can imagine if it's been going for that long, that it might be difficult. We might be at a point where actually some of these people may be at various stages. I don't know the facts around the matter, but the suggestion, I guess, is that some of them are too weak to be able to come up on their own, and that usually there's some assistance from above ground for them to get that food and water. But in this case, that has been cut off. Let me take one more voice note before going to your calls now.
My name is Mr. Simelane. I'll tell you, our courts are our weakest link. The police are doing their best to fight the criminals, but the courts are encouraging criminals to do criminality. Just imagine if someone hijacking people. When he's caught, he says, "No, I was angry." You are encouraging people to be criminals. We are too nice on criminals in South Africa. Thank you, Mr. Simelane. It's Muzumi.
I hear you. And again, I say, I think a few days ago, I can't remember which commentator was saying that this is similar to when police are engaged, say, in a gun battle with criminals. And you use the word hijackers, and the hijackers are shot. Their right to health care and to be treated doesn't disappear because they were committing a crime. You can still, take them to hospital and make sure that they're treated, and then you take them to court and have them prosecuted. So I guess that's the best analogy that I can give in this particular situation. That's at least the reasoning of some of these institutions, and many of them are quite clear that they are not seeking to encourage criminality in the country. Let me take a call from Thomas in Newcastle. Good morning to you, Thomas, also on the same theme of illegal miners. Thomas, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Here's my thing. One, Chabet Kupus, she said we will smoke them. And language has got color, different color language. When she said we will smoke them, she was basically saying we will do whatever it will be to make them so uncomfortable that they decide to come out.
Yeah.
She wasn't saying we will kill them, we will deprive them this, that, and the other. It's just people who are spinning it around.
But Thomas, if you cut off water and food lines for someone who's underground, does that not eventually lead to their death if it's sustained over a period of time?
I hear you. It's been for 3 months. So 3 months back, the government, to all intents and purposes, has been saying, come out, you guys. Then the guys had strength, they had everything to come out. They didn't come out. And fast forward to now, if the information we're getting that at some stage, at these last times, some sort of relief was given to them so that they would come out. They took that food, ate and fed still.
I hear
what do we do to that? What do we do to that?
Yeah.
Because if they were too weak to come out, they should have taken that lifeline and then came out. Because already the fact that they are criminals, as far as we're concerned, is established. So they stayed there because they were afraid of being prosecuted, and then they abuse our laws.
All right. Thomas, I've got you. Thank you for that. That's Thomas there. Let's take a call from Chaka in Bloemfontein, also on the same issue. Good morning to you, Chaka.
Morning, Thulasizwe. The issue of human rights, to say that the police can go down there and arrest the people. I think, if you recall, they tried to contact the mining companies. The people who have got expertise in, having people, the rescue teams that can go in there and, possibly rescue whoever is weak or whatever. The problem is that those areas, they are abandoned areas, they are very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous to go in there. What you saw there, the community trying to rescue the people, it was basically like a minor, it was more of a demonstration. It wasn't really a rescue. I could see those ropes and so on, very unreliable and so on, and they can snap at any time. And the issue is the police. It's impossible for the police. It's also very dangerous to let any member of the police or even the fire department to go in there.
Yeah.
Or get whoever is weak and so on. And the other thing is, well, the miners are holding ground there. They are heavily armed with AK-47 and heavy caliber weapons, and they know the territory well. So if you come there, you're basically exposed to people who are ambushing you and so on.
And Chaka, what you're saying is quite important, Chaka there in Bloemfontein. What Chaka is saying is quite important because the Human Rights Commission's statement itself acknowledges the complexities of the situation and some of the factors that you bring in there, when Chaka, the Human Rights Commission also highlights to say, when we went there, we got an appreciation for ourselves that it's not as black and white as some people may think that it is, including those issues of safety of going underground for police officials as well as emergency services. I'll take more of your calls and WhatsApps in just a moment.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Southern side of Joburg, we've had this crash near the Oakerdene exit near the Kamaru Street off-ramp. It has been cleared. Of course, a really big delay coming through from Alberton on your way to direction Soweto, but it's all out of the way. Traffic is moving. Still plenty of traffic through the Crown. The Mike 1 from Gold Reef City up to Empire. The M2 from Benrose coming through into Crown stays heavy as well. N1 both ways down to the William Mandela off-ramp is still struggling along. And Pretoria's N1 South still very busy this morning from Linwood Road, past an obstruction after Gaasfontein, and then the earlier crash down at the R21, so still plenty of traffic on that run through. Durban, we've had various breakdowns causing delays this morning on some of your key highway routes. There's still a stationary truck on the N2 North, just after Spaghetti Junction. That stays busy. A breakdown on the southbound side of Spaghetti Junction as well, and another breakdown on the N2 North up at Gateway in the roadworks. So if you're on your way to the airport, that's still a very heavy backlog moving up through Kwamashu area. No change in terms of the run from Durban down to the south coast. The N2 stays closed at Joyner Road. There will be another day of disruption. There's already some noticeable delays as you slow up through Prospector and Isipingo on those side alternative routes. Sanral still aiming for 29th of November, the end of the month, to get some capacity in terms of lanes restored on the N2. Maybe before that, but 29th is the deadline they're giving themselves. Cape Town this morning, crash on the main road at Glencan, causing quite a big delay. If you're moving from Fishhook down towards Simonstown, it's particularly heavy. Nasty collision that. R300 out of Mitchell's Plain to the M7 stays busy, and the N1 into Cape Town, still plenty of traffic from Plattercliff Road through Kuba, get a change, and then through Woodstock to Elevated Freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's continue leading the conversations that move us. Let's take this voice note, which is about what the Eastern Cape House of Traditional Leaders is saying about the need for medical screening done in the Eastern Cape ahead of the initiation season.
Morning, Thulasizwe. I think it's ingenious of the Nkosi to say medical certificates from other provinces are fraudulent, because the Eastern Cape is the home of fraud. Ghost workers and everything, you name them, they originated in the Eastern Cape. And the other factor is that there is this 7 day of not drinking water that makes the boys to be dehydrated. It is there when you start the initiations. It does not happen before initiations. There's that thing that you do not drink water 7 days after initiation. That's what makes the boys to be dehydrated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anonymous here.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I think Kosikwatiso was saying, certainly in as far as his understanding of the culture and tradition, that requirement to not drink water is not there, at least from his perspective. I'm no expert, but I'll take what you are saying in your experience, perhaps, and in your region. It may be something that is within the culture and tradition of Ulwaluko. Let me take a voice note from the one of the listeners about the conversation we had earlier on with the MEC for Agriculture in Gauteng regarding those 1.75 million rand shipping containers that were meant to help entrepreneurs in the townships.
No, please enlighten me. Who funded the containers? Who's behind the project? And how did they come to that amount that now the MEC says they've discovered it? Whose project is it that they are now making the discovery now? I'm a bit confused. Kindly please enlighten me. Please. This doesn't make sense. It's just very ridiculous.
Yep.
Where's the money coming from?
Yep. We are all there. At least we know where the money is coming from. It's coming from you and I as taxpayers. It was a conditional grant, 36 million rand from national government. The other questions you ask, that's what the investigation is now about. To say who buys something that, by the best accounts, you could buy for 150 to 170,000 rand. Who buys that for 1.75 million rand? No matter how much the modifications are appropriate for this purpose, there doesn't seem to be any justification for that amount of money. Letabo in Centurion, good morning to you. You want to talk about illegal miners?
Yes, thank you, sir. First time on your show.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you. Without taking any side, now you mentioned something that it's been 3 months since water and food been cut off. Imagine if this government was to supply food. They will stay there forever. So I think if they cannot come out because they are starving for a week and we start giving them food, those guys will never come out there. So I think maybe they are correct to do that. I'm not sure. But yeah, you can just imagine that.
Yeah, so the Human Rights Commission says that's at least the allegation, that it's been ongoing for 3 months. The veracity of that, I guess we'll have to wait and see if it will be established. Letabo, thank you for that call in Centurion. Nkosinathi in Nkandla. Is it Nkandla or is it Nkandla?
Nkandla.
Nkandla. We've all learned to pronounce it now.
Yes. No, I just want to speak about this. What do they call illegal? I don't think it is those are illegal minings, because there has been a deliberate for letting the people from outside to come in. But it is what now we are looking is a result. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about the food poisoning, we're talking about the mine, but the common factor is from the borders. Now the problem we are facing, we are on the hands. There's one statement that Mr. Mantashe made when they asked him on other interviews about the Truth Commission. He said the aim for Truth Commission not for Truth Commission, the aim for Zonal Commission was for the ANC to correct itself. There is a statement, but now the problem is for them. Now we are on their hands for them to get a chance to correct them. All what they are doing now is not going to help us, even registering, but we are in a trouble.
Yeah.
So this is my problem. He's not going to help us now because we are on their hands to correct themselves.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Nkosinathi, weighing in there on that issue of mining, illegal mining, and just the systemic, and also identifying what other people have identified as well. The common thread, the failure to control migration and just control the borders being one of the factors at play that has been identified by several people. Let's speak to Alex. Alex, good morning. You also want to talk about the same issue of illegal miners.
Yes. I'm going to tell you this. Nobody in his sound mind will go there underground. I'm going to tell you this. Those people who are underground, they have made their choices. They want to die. They want to kill themselves. Let them die. That's their problem. We don't have to use our money, our taxpayers' money, hardly any, to make sure that those illegal people come out. Let them die there.
Unfortunately, though, Alex, as a state, you can say that, but the state doesn't have that option because of who we've defined ourselves to be as a society. We've defined ourselves to be a society based on human rights, human dignity, freedom, and the likes, and we are committed to it, even when it's painful.
But are you going to go there
no,
if you want to help? Are you going to go there?
I'm not required to do that.
Same as me, I'm not going to go there.
All right, Alex, I've got you. Sometimes we make light of the situations, but actually it is a serious conversation about our commitment to some of these issues of human rights, even when it hurts. Let me take one last voice note before the end of the show.
Hi, Thulas. This is Cape Town. You know, I once heard from some of the guys in the industry, that export industry, that there's a guy that imports tons of horse meat into the country that nobody knows what happens to them. And you ask yourself, how can these guys have such cheap sausages? It doesn't make sense. Now we've got the answer for it. And also on this thing of the sponsor shops, you know, it's questionable if you can have guys that can be cheaper than shop at and think that their product is up to scratch. People should just do this then. Thank you.
All right, thank you for those, and thank you for your interactions. Thank you for listening for the last 3 hours, and thanks to the team that put it all together. The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana, KG Moeketsi is standing in. That's coming up after the news here on SAFM. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Spaza shop owners unhappy with registration deadline and Russia reacts to Biden approving Ukraine to use long-range weapons. Good morning. Some Spaza shop owners are calling for more time to register their businesses, saying the 21-day deadline is insufficient. This follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement that owners of food handling outlets, including Spaza shops, should register their businesses with their respective municipalities. Ramaphosa's announcement comes amid growing concerns over food safety and the sale of expired, contaminated and counterfeit goods at some Spaza shops. Food poisoning incidents have resulted in the deaths of 22 children so far. The South African Spaza and Tuck Shop Association says the deadline is not feasible. The association Sibusiso Ngobo.
It's not realistic and it doesn't accommodate the whole spectrum of support from the government, meaning that training, workshops, implementation, management of these new bylaws and actually upholding the policy. So within 21 days, we will go back to a situation whereby we find lawlessness prevailing because of inadequate time of planning. It is a response, we appreciate that, but I think it should have been coupled with solutions that cover the whole spectrum of the problem.
Meanwhile, members of Operation Dudula are expected to picket in Soweto today against the registration of foreign-owned Spaza shops. Zandile Dabula is the organization's president.
We are very disappointed because when we thought that our own president will be declaring a state of emergency when it comes to immigration, then he decides to give people who have broken the laws already a chance to go and correct their wrongs. So why are they not shutting them down? I mean, he was so quick to say that all the informal traders that are trading at schools, they need to move and no longer trade there. But why is he not doing the same thing with these foreign-owned Spaza shops in and around our townships?
Political analyst Levi Ndo says the EFF owes its supporters an explanation on why it has allegedly barred senior party member Mbuyiseni Ndlozi from attending its elective conference next month. There's speculation that the exodus of senior leaders from the Red Berets could lead to the party's further electoral decline. The EFF dipped to 9.52% in the May general elections, becoming the fourth largest party after the arrival of the Thulasizwe party. Reports suggest Ndlozi has not been given an explanation for his ban from the party's activities. The move comes amid reported rising tensions in the EFF. Ndo says the EFF must account to its supporters.
If you prevent a person like Dr. Ndlozi from attending the National People's Assembly, you should be having very, very good and convincing reasons why you have done so. Because people in and outside the EFF could interpret that differently. And if such has a potential to create unnecessary dissatisfaction and indeed divisions within the party, you should therefore be able to have a very good strategy to be able to explain that to the constituency of the party.
The first ever gender-based violence study is expected to be released in Pretoria this morning. The Human Science Research Council conducted the study, which is crucial given the alarming rate of gender-based violence in the country. Government will use the findings to formulate policies that can strengthen its national strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide. The focus will be on community engagement and data-driven interventions. And finally, Russian politicians have expressed anger at U.S. officials' confirmation that President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use American long-range missiles to strike targets deep inside Russia. The decision marks the significant reversal in U.S. policy, although Biden has not made a formal announcement. The BBC's Steve Rosenberg reports.
The only reaction we've had so far is from senior Russian politicians. So the head of a pro-Kremlin party said he believed this is a serious escalation that would have serious consequences. A senior Russian senator said it was a step towards a world war. But keep in mind, what really counts in Russia is what President Putin says. And he hasn't said anything at all so far. Joe Biden has taken this controversial decision, but in 2 months he'll be out and Donald Trump will be in. Someone who has been publicly skeptical about US military aid to Ukraine. I wonder whether that will play into Putin's calculations.
Recapping the top stories, some spaza shop owners are calling for more time to register their businesses, saying the 21-day deadline is insufficient. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a code today. SMS CAR to 43187.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only your brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? Hey. The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
43-year-old Jan loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2005 Corsa 1.6 Sport, he only pays 350 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
In any democracy where you have power, you have to have separation of powers. You have to have a judiciary, a legislature, and an executive, and you have to have them balancing each other. And the most important component of the separation of powers is the judiciary. And without strong-minded, capable, hard-working lawyers, the judiciary cannot work. So the task upon your shoulders is very big. We've still got a long way to go in our country. Our constitution is young, but it's the world's most progressive. It's the world's most open-hearted, big-spirited constitution. And we have to make it work. One of the ways that we've got to make it work is through social justice. There's nothing wrong in wanting prosperity in your own lives, on condition that you work for it. That's why corruption is so bad, because corruption is wealth stolen from the public without any work being done. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do well and to succeed and to prosper, provided you work for it. But hear me on this. If you want to be a lawyer in South Africa, you're going to have to ensure that the legal system continues to function. And for the legal system to continue to function and to play the course it does in our country, it's got to be a just legal system. It's the same dilemma as the apartheid regime had. They couldn't enforce apartheid through the law unless they allowed the judges to give some decisions which were anti-apartheid. They couldn't perpetuate apartheid unless they allowed the trade unions in the 1980s. The trade unions adopted the law and fought for their rights through the law, through the apartheid legal system. And the same principle applies now. We cannot be lawyers. We cannot be lawyers and judges, let alone prosperous lawyers and judges, unless we extend the benefit of our country's prosperity to everyone.
That, of course, is the voice of Justice Edwin Cameron, retired Justice Edwin Cameron, who served as a justice of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of South Africa. He gives us the opening motivation for the week as we get into Monday's talking point. My name is Khomotso KG Mweketi. I'm in for Kathy. For the week, we are SFM leading the conversation. Our studio numbers 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032, the SMS line 41391, 41391 at 150 to you, the WhatsApp line 061 410 4107, 061 410 4107. On X, we are at SFM Radio, and please hashtag SFM Talking Point when you talk to us. We open the lines for you between now and 10 as we open the lines on that 086 000 2032. I'm giving you the menu for today, 086 000 2032. And the law and Ubuntu, because I'm at pains to not say versus, because it can't be a versus thing for me. The law and Ubuntu, where do we find the balance? Last week, so many of you agreed with the minister in the presence. In fact, I think as good as 100%. I think there was just one person who agreed with me. I stood out like a sore thumb, really, disagreeing with all of you. Minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Nchaveni, when she said that the trapped illegal miners at a mine in Stelfontein must be smoked out. She's gone on now, of course, to explain it on X, following, the Globe's response to her smoked out comments. The news made headlines with human rights groups feeling that government is acting inhumanely. And we're going to have a conversation around it and discuss it with Seth Mazibuko, Hassel Logat, who's a social justice activist. Seth Mazibuko is the COO at the Moral Regeneration Movement, and Mameti Sibei is president of Jawusa. He was one of the people who visited the mine on Saturday. So we're going to have an extensive conversation around it after 10, between 10 and 11. And then we're going to have a conversation around alcohol. Right? The pricing of alcohol. Because there's stats that I was thinking when I was preparing for this, that we're in the top for all the wrong things sometimes in the country, right? The top of the statistics in the world for femicide, we're up there. And when I was reading where the fifth highest, we're in the fifth highest drinkers in the States. We drink a lot. It turns out we are a nation of people who drink a lot, binge drinkers. So the National Treasury has just published a policy review on the taxation of alcoholic beverages in South Africa. And this review may change the minimum unit price of alcohol, and this may inform how alcohol may be taxed in the upcoming budget for the year 2025. And the review could become a key intervention that may change access and prevalence of alcohol in communities. And National Treasury has opened the review for public comment to get input on how the introduction of the minimum unit pricing can help reduce alcohol abuse and find policy interventions that can, reflect its commitment. And I asked myself whether the pricing of alcohol would influence your drinking choices. Would you drink less? If, for example, your drink of choice, let's say you drink, what do you drink? Beer? Let's say you pay 10 Rand for beer. Lousy example, I know. Right? Let's say you pay 10 Rand for 500 mils of beer. And then they say, as of next year, you pay 100 Rand for the same 500 mils. It's a lousy example, I know. But would it change your patterns? Would it make you say, for example, no, I won't drink? Or would you alter everything that you need to alter in your life to make sure that you accommodate that change? Right? Because we're going to have a conversation around the minimum unit price for alcoholic beverages that some are saying will lead to better health outcomes and address social harms that are affected by the high alcohol consumption. And those social ills are interpersonal violence, self-harm, road accidents. We're going into December. We know the impact of, alcohol on the road. So we're going to talk to Zimasa Mnyana. She is she's the project lead for alcohol harms reduction. And then we are going to, at 11:30, because today marks the start of a new book on the show, and we decided we're speaking to a guest to share what to expect from the new book, and she's exploring the subject matter that affects us all, money. She wrote the book. Wendy Silebi, Director of Seeds to Forest Training and Coaching Services, and the book is called I Wish Somebody Told Me. That's what we're doing on the show today. So when we left last week, the president spoke at 7:30 last Friday, ne? Munan. What time did the president speak? 7:30 Friday. And basically, those issues, there's regulations now. Spaza shops have to be registered within 21 days. There's already people complaining that the 21-day period is particularly short. There's already saying it opens the room for corruption in municipalities, because some are saying already municipal workers will say, "Awungifakele lapho. Faka lapho." If we angifakela lapho, we'll expedite it. That's what some are saying. So we'll see what happens in these 21-day period. It's a 3-week period, right? What does it mean? But also, I'm still staying on the soccer issue that none of you mostly wanted to talk about, because one of the things I read on the weekend, right, is that Irvin Khoza is one of the people that are going to testify, apparently, in the case against Danny Jordan. Right? The two major players in South African football are Irvin Khoza and Danny Jordan. Major. They're at the center of the football space in South Africa. And anybody who knows anything about football in this country knows that apparently there is no love lost between them. And the article that I read implies that it's going to flip this case on in a big way with the testimony of Irvin Khoza against Danny Jordan, which means largely probably the redefinition of the football space in South Africa, if it does indeed happen. We haven't seen the affidavit of what it is that he's going to say in his testimony, of course. But you probably can guess. So I want to hear what's on your mind.